Been a long time coming.
Yeah, man.
Y'all been around quite a bit, and you know how many times I passed through here going back and forth to Milwaukee, and I'm just like, I knew you're in Illinois, but I had no idea where.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
So
It's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
it's not that bad. I mean, it's
But you got to go through here to go to Chicago and Milwaukee and all those places. So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, if you think about it, it's like a central hub. So about 2 hours each way, north, south, east, west. You can hit a major city. So you can hit Indy, you can hit St. Louis, you can hit Chicago. Well, if you head west, you go to Iowa, so there's not much there. But
dude, I fucking love Iowa, man. Iowa's got a vibe. So, I guess maybe to like back up, I mean, we got a lot to talk about, but to back up some, what drug you towards performance baggers many years ago? Because you guys have been coming to the camp out for a long time. You've been almost everywhere in like the circles of our friends, our big friends group in America.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of drug like pushed you towards performance baggers in the first place?
oh, you want me to take that?
You
one?
can go and start.
Yeah, I guess performance baggers, maybe I kind of pushed that one a little bit. So
Yeah.
prior to that, we were very much like, I wasn't a Harley Davidson guy. I rode metric bikes, sport bikes, even had some metric cruisers, and we were always building something, chopping something up. And he had a Sportster. We did a big bore kit on it, hardtail, fat tire rear, inverted front end. And finally, I was like, all right, I'm getting a little older now. I'm gonna try this Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
So I went and I picked that bike up, that white one that I have, winter of 2017. Went up to Chicago, got it. Weather was still okay. I rode it a couple times, and I told him, "Man, this thing sucks." I mean, it was just, it was slow compared to anything that I had had. So from that point on, I really started researching, like, how do we make this thing faster? Faster was the first thing. All right, so faster. All right, let's get a big bore kit. And then after that, how about positioning? Because those little buckhorn handlebars, I mean, they just weren't doing it for me. So then I think my first setup and the setup that I still have today, I have a Kraus risers. I originally had the straights, and I'm still a little too short, so I ended up going with the kickbacks. But that's the only thing that I changed. I love those. Changed the bars a little bit here and there. Tried a few different sets.
Bars are important. That's the
They
people they overlook that. They think they're all the same, and
They're not.
you can get a thrashing aggressive bar, and you're like flat across. You can get their their mid bend. It's a lot nicer, but personally, I think it's always a taste thing. Like whatever fits you and your aesthetic, and your your own personal rider triangle. So I've always been keen to the narrowness of the Lucky Dave's riser bar.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I personally like that, but like Steve Chamberlain likes those Fly Moto. Those things are flat as hell.
Those are the ones that I originally went with because that's what was on Kraus's website.
Yeah.
Hey, buy these risers and buy these moto style bars. So I had those, rode those for quite a few years. And it always just kind of gave me a little pain in my shoulder and my neck. And then finally last year when we tore the bikes down to the frame, I went with those ODI podiums. It's got a much, much higher rise, a little bit more pullback on them. And I love them. The bike's dialed where it's at now.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, performance baggers, it was probably really just trying to get the bike to a point of what I was used to. Speed, suspension, seating position, all of that.
Yeah, it's like once you figure out your kit, then it's kind of like, okay, stage one is done. That's the stage one performance bagger, right?
Right.
Get figure out what your bars, your seat, like, are you a mid control guy? You a pulled back floorboard guy? Like, where are you at on that stance?
Yeah.
And then, how, we all want a little more power, at least a cam, but like, some people like go straight to suspension before they do anything else, and I'm more like, kind of would rather hear that slap of the cam,
Yeah.
Right. Ergonomics is really important. And I think as we kind of did our bikes in stages, if you will, like initially when we first got into it, like Justin said, like bars, seats, and all that good stuff. And then it kind of progressed from there as we started riding a lot more distance and doing a lot more things on these things.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, oh, well, we need a little more power to get out of those corners faster. Well, now we need to upgrade the brakes, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to stop all that power.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know, you're putting inverted front ends on and doing all kinds of R&D and developing your own trees and revalving forks and doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just snowballs kind of.
Yeah.
And I went through probably 3 or 4 different variations of my suspension, right? I think the first thing I had was some sort of drop-in. I don't know,
like the Nix 22 thing?
Yeah, well, I wasn't even at that level at the time. I mean, I started from like some progressive drop-ins, and then I just reading on the forums, like, what are people doing? So at that time, the bike was still fairly new. So drop-ins, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, Legends, now they have a +2. Okay, so let's go that route. And then he had inverted on his, and I decided, all right, well, let's make the jump, let's make some trees, get some trees made, and then I'm going to take on the challenge to see if I can revalve these things.
Oh, that's cool.
So bought all the Race Tech gold valves, compression, all that stuff, revalve,
Springs,
compression, the springs. And if you've ever built one of those shim stacks, it comes in a bag full of washers, and they're paper thin, and you just lay them out on the table, and they give you some specs, based on your riding style and your weight and the type of bike that it's going on. And they say, all right, these are the shims, and this is the order they need to be in. Well, they're all paper thin, so you have to get out a digital caliper and measure every single one, the thickness and the outer diameter, and then you have to stack them accordingly. So it's a very time-consuming process. Not only that part, but then knowing how everything goes back together.
Got to have specialty tools for it, all that good stuff. But it's great. Race Tech is great in that aspect because they will sit down and walk you through, okay, what are you trying to do with this bike? How do you ride this bike? What level of rider are you? What's your body weight? Do you have passenger, et cetera? So they really tailor what they recommend towards you and then provide you with that feedback. And then you can go and buy all the stuff from them and do what you will with it.
Yeah, Race Tech has always seemed like the even kill. Like, it's solid stuff. You just got to get it dialed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you step up, and maybe step up, or it's not the right word, but you step into like your Legends or your Big Bear revalved, 30 something, whatever, like all these other things.
Right.
And it's like, I think for us out there, it's, you ever played video games like remember like Gran Turismo, things like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How everything was kind of it was like well, this is the suspension your level's allowed to be at.
Yeah,
and I think we all just naturally are ingrained to go towards whatever's more expensive.
Yep.
Instead of realizing that a lot of these parts is a trial and error kind of thing to figure out what really fits your riding style, what you're going to do on the bike. And then I think some people that had the money went full race, and it took away some of the rideability of the normal road.
Yeah.
It's super easy to just go buy something off the shelf. And if everybody's rolling Olin's HD44s or Nix 30s, Nix 22s,
that's the thing.
That's the thing to have. That's what you're hearing about. Once you start getting into some of these more customizable solutions, and that's not saying that Olin's is not, because it varies. It's very customizable. They'll build stuff exactly like Race Tech will. But Race Tech is more like a DIYers. You need to have a little bit of knowledge. And after my experience with the front end and their customer service and their tech support, I was running Legend rears, like the arcs, the reservoirs. And I ended up switching over to the Race Tech rears also. So full Race Tech suspension.
Well, it's good that you found like a niche of wanting to like dial yourself in knowledge-wise to be able to add that to the Kleen Moto side of things, right?
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? Like that's I think a lot of people think about products like, oh, what's the next product? But sometimes adding the knowledge and the skill to do those things is another great addition to a brand.
A lot of our products honestly come out of that, out of necessity, or out of like, hey, I want to be able to do this to my bike. Let's figure it out. And that we've always had that kind of attitude. Like, we're going to figure this out. Or if we haven't done something before, it's not that we can't do it. It's we haven't done it yet. We're going to figure it out. Right. So we kind of took that approach to a lot of things, especially suspension. I mean, I think we spent a lot of time R&D'ing our triple trees and fork setups and all that good stuff. And we got to a point where I think we've got them pretty dialed in.
Nice.
I mean, we keep up with everybody in the Smokies. So it's, that's always a good
there's
time.
always traffic too.
Yeah.
That allows us to catch up.
Yeah. Nobody's getting gapped there.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. Like I said, it's important. You know, I think every time I've ever wanted to learn a little bit more about the suspension, it just ends up like too much.
Oh, it's a rabbit hole, dude. For real.
It is, you know, and I'm not a reader at all. I actually despise reading quite a bit. My wife's always telling me, hey, you should read a book instead of watching TV at night until 1 a.m. and I just can't do it. But if it's something like that, if it's something I need to learn, then I'm very interested.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I've actually been going down the rabbit hole to train myself to be more, just allowing myself that if I do read something and I forget the last fucking 2 pages,
read it again.
All right, pay attention, Jace.
Yeah. Like, go back.
Yeah, it's super easy to just become distracted, even if there's nothing around you.
Yeah.
And it's quiet. I think it's it might just be a typical male thing.
Yeah.
If it doesn't grab your attention right off the bat, it's
hard to hold it. Yeah.
And I remember growing up in school, my mom would always get the progress reports. Hey, your son's super smart if he would just apply himself. And I hear that quite a bit from friends who have kids and their boys, or they're getting the same sort of reports. I just think it's the way that we're wired.
Yeah, or the fact that they're judging, like they're scaling, they're measuring you based on something that might not apply to you at all.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like if you think about how many kids just completely, their lives go to shit because they can't pass or do grades and they fall into different circles. Yeah. But it's because they're not being exposed to all the things that they're actually possibly more, hardwired for.
Right? Yeah, they may be very skilled at something and just have not, like you said, had the exposure to that item. Because,
I'm not really into math at all.
Yeah.
But if the application of doing math was doing, engineering through, like the programs and the decimals and all that kind of stuff as far as like tolerances and stuff, or in the building side of things with wood, like using more of like your, fractions, man, I probably would understand it better. Yeah, but just straight paper and letters and words and numbers and A equals B, but it comes out to 7 somehow. Like, what the fuck?
When am I going to use this ever? Yeah. Right. It's gotta be applied to the person in order to really truly learn something, right? Like, you gotta be interested in whatever you're learning. Otherwise, it's just going in one ear and out the other. And then all you're doing is really just teaching people how to test at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's it.
What just sucks that, like, maybe I am good at math, but the way that it was being shown to me and the way I had to prove it was just not accurate for, like, the way I'm wired. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but 100%. And I always struggled with courses like that going through junior high and high school. But I excelled at drafting in AutoCAD.
Y'all did AutoCAD too?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, but I couldn't go sit in Algebra 1 and figure out the basic equation, even though I was using those every day for 2 hours in my drafting class. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's almost like, well, hey, I suck at your class, but I kind of am doing it.
Yeah. Like,
can I get a carryover somewhere in there?
How old are you guys?
I don't want to talk about it.
I'm 43.
All right.
I'm 42.
All right. So we're in the same age group. I'm 41, 42 this year. So I think that we're the generation that was like being told that we weren't going to have a calculator in our pocket.
Absolutely.
And then literally as soon as we graduate high school, we have
We
a
got a
calculator.
computer in our pocket.
Boom,
Yeah.
there's the iPhone.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a messed up little situation that we got wrapped up in.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we're not allowed to just learn how to use the calculator very well because we're supposed to know how to do it by hand, you know, like long form or whatever the fuck. And it's just like, God damn, it's like, did y'all not see this coming?
Right. Like, come on now.
We were also the generation that took the TI-83 and figured out how to write boobies on it. Boobies and boobless.
Seriously.
I remember that
Yeah.
shit. You know, and then you had the smart guys in your class that fucking figured out how to put little programs on them to do calculations.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? When you know, because, you know, Texas Instruments is based out of Dallas. And so our high school, we'd always have a plethora of those things.
Yeah.
We stole the fuck out of those things and resold them.
Probably for a lot of money.
They were
I remember how
expensive back then.
expensive those things were.
And you know what's weird about it? It's like I wanted one. I didn't want to use it. I just wanted it. It's like like you said, we're hardwired as males to want things.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, I got, you know, of course, at one point I had like 6 of them.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like trying to sling them. You know, we're getting rid of the serial numbers off so the
Right.
school doesn't know.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, they were expensive back then. If you think, you know, mid
$100-something
'90s,
bucks.
yeah,
Dude, I
100,
remember-
$100 in the mid '90s. That's a lot of money.
I remember my parents cussing up and down when I went to high school and had to get one of those things. And I was
Yeah, because it was a requirement.
things
Like, you need
ridiculously
this
expensive.
TI-83 for
Yeah.
starting your sophomore year for algebra, and it's like I could never figure out the programs, but I did figure out if you write on the inside cover in pencil,
Yeah.
like you can't really see it unless you shift
hit the
it.
light. Yeah. Hit that lead. It's a little.
Just giving away all my secrets. Hopefully my child never sees this.
Cheater.
Well, hopefully he does because I think it's applied sciences at that point.
Right. Like, well, Dad did this shit. I can do it.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's a problem solver.
Right.
Because
right.
when you become an adult, you can cheat.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
Like, whatever you got to do to figure out the solution of this problem. You know, and that's another thing I felt like that I was always good at is a problem solver. I might not know how to
I
do
thought
it.
you were gonna say cheating.
No, that's morally you get to a point in your life where that starts to kind of like it levels out.
Yeah.
As you get older, a little empathy starts to fill up and
That's
morals
true.
start to come into play. And then, you know, the first time something gets stolen from you that you really didn't want to
Yeah.
get stolen, you're like, God damn it, those calculators.
Yeah.
They're
Coming back. It's coming back for me.
They sure
So-
are too.
But no, to that extent, it is like, I think that's the one thing I don't see in a lot of people that I've had come work for me over the years or that I've known is that some people are inherently just not problem solvers, right?
sure.
If there's a problem, it's a roadblock and they're looking like waiting for someone to come and notice that they don't know what they're doing, you know? And, you know, I noticed that as kind of like doing, like I did mechanic work for Walmart. So I changed oil. That was like one of my first jobs, like, you know, getting, you know, really wanting to be in automotive world. And it was kind of like, well, I'm changing oil and tires and batteries. So at least I'm touching tools and wrenching. It might not be where I want, you know, but I noticed really quickly because that was one of the places that a lot of the tech schools would get you a job that they promised, right? Went to school for 2 years, $40,000 in debt. We got you a job at Walmart.
Damn.
You know, and these kids would come in there and they never were taught how to, they applied the way they were taught to learn in school. And they applied that to mechanics and problem solving, which a lot of being a mechanic or builder or whatever is problem solving.
Right.
You know, how do I make this work? Or this is what's going on. So let me run down the list of things to start checking backwards. Right.
Yep.
And those problem solving skills just never apply, you know, to people. And you'd see it in real time.
Yeah.
And how do I get a drain plug out when it's stripped? Get some vice grips. What are vice grips? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
it's insane to me.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be my question to you about that, though. I mean, even though you started there, you still found some value in working there and being around those vehicles and having to problem solve a strip drain plug all right, well, this drain plug's stripped and it's absolutely stripped. Now, did you take on the responsibility of like putting a thread cert or a time cert or something in it just to get the customer down the road?
Well, that's kind of one of those deals at Walmart. They're not going to let you do things like that. So usually if it's stripped because it came in that way, drain plug strip, send them. We're not touching it.
Gotcha.
But you put, you're sitting there joking with the guy on the top side and you start fucking, you throw it, you thought it was a Dodge, but it turns out it's a Nissan. You throw a half inch on there instead of a 13 mil. And the next thing you know. So it's like sometimes it's your fuck up, or say you're taking lug nuts off of a dually and you've done all the tires, but the last tire, the lug nut stripped. Kind of got to get it off.
Oh yeah.
And you got to figure it out. So it was just one of those things and there was a certain thing that Walmart would allow you to change and certain things that you just had to stay away from.
Yep.
And sometimes knowing, hey, don't fucking dig into this at all. So it's just that. But, sometimes you would pull a drain plug out that someone actually stripped into it.
Yeah.
And then you'd have a problem where you can't actually rethread in, and you'd have another place that you would send those type of mechanic jobs to. But it was always one of those deals where when you finally had to tell the customer, they're like, no, you fucked it up.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's like, well, I came in for oil change and my AC doesn't work now. I'm like,
wait, what?
What does that have to do with me? So,
yeah, I know all about that, man. I used to work at the tire desk at Farm and Fleet, man. So that was my first job.
Yeah.
So I got a question. If something is fucked up, just because these scenarios always suck, if something is fucked up, does the service writer guy get the shit job of telling the customer, or do they make the mechanic come in?
Well, it should be the service writer.
Yeah.
Because the service writer is usually an asshole.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Do I need to hire somebody else? Like, you're my boss.
What are you talking about?
We make the same money, dumbass.
Right. Yeah, you up here pushing pins. I'm out here sweating in this hot ass garage.
Yeah.
Fuck, can't hear shit with this fan blowing.
Damn it.
Give me a 13 millimeter.
13 millimeter. Here, let me get it.
Cool. Yeah. So, like, you guys do like engineering type stuff for a living, right?
Well, I mean, I guess if you want to call it like software engineering or infrastructure engineering. So both of us have regular day jobs, regular 7 to 3, 9 to 5, whatever you want to call it. Work for a Fortune 50 company. I'm an infrastructure engineer, so I deal more with stuff on the client side, like your physical PC or your cell phones or network connectivity. And then I'm not going to speak for him, but he's a software engineer.
I'm a software engineer, and I do right now I'm doing a lot of architecture work, so designing software packages for solutions to go out in the future. And it's fun. I mean, it's one of those jobs that it pays the bills. It's something different every day, so it keeps your mind going.
Yeah.
And working at a place like we work at, I mean, it's so big. Something's on fire that we need to pivot and shift to. And, both of us being on, like you mentioned, architecture and engineering teams, I mean, we get to see the gamut of it. So all the little stuff that's happening and then the big picture stuff where the organization is trying to move, I mean, it gives us tons of knowledge and breadth of work. It's crazy.
No, man, like I said, I went to high school I was in high school drafting class, architecture, worked in a job, around draftsmen for more commercial architecture than anything. Mainly it was just making existing plans work for the codes of said city that it was going to go in.
Sure.
ADA, things like that. And I'm so glad I got that job, because I'm so glad that I did not continue into like the school for drafting to take those classes, because it was also in the transition where I started high school. We were drafting on tables, like pen and paper, which I love the fact because it gave me the ability to sketch in perspectives.
Yeah.
Which I use it all the time. You know what I mean? As far as like ideas for like, I used to draw a lot of wheels and parts for brands back in the big wheel days. Nice. And I draw it on paper. And then my sign program that I use to cut out like graphics for like, you know, your logo to make out in the paintwork. Yeah. There's similar commands to AutoCAD. And that's what I learned was AutoCAD when I was a kid. Yeah. Autodesk, all that stuff. And so basically applying some of those same things, I can draw like, I can almost in a sign program draw a set of wheels for you and array the spokes and all that shit to where it's like, okay, I'll just send you this. It's a vector, but you can, you know, get an idea for it, and then they can redraw it or whatever. And so I would say that those skills have helped me out in my career. Like I've used them more than probably most other things I learned in high school, but it showed me that I didn't want to be in the space of like one part of all of it. Like I wanted the ownership of creating something, and seeing it through, you know, but I think you guys do some of the similar stuff that Corey from Main Drive does. Like, he does. I think what you do, but for the school system, the Dallas Independent School District or something like that. So
it's a good job. I mean, it definitely. So working where we work has definitely given us a lot of insight into customer service, as well as being very analytical. Because that's our job all day, is to be analytical of everything that's going on around so we can figure out solutions for these problems and stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, I think working for a Fortune 50 company, doing those things has really helped us out business-wise, especially.
Customer service is huge. Also, like, just marketing your brand. We don't go out of our way and spend a shit ton of marketing dollars to say, hey, everybody buy Kleen Moto, and you have 9 million ads on Instagram, Facebook, and you've hired some brand marketing agency. No, I mean, it's just the experience that we've learned through osmosis, picking that up through the organization. And no matter what department you're in, you're always having business partners that are on the business side. And you just pick that information up, you know, and like how to release a product from beginning to end. That's huge.
Product life cycle.
Yeah, product life cycle is huge.
That's a huge thing. That's helped out a ton.
Support after the fact.
Well, I think a lot of people don't understand that, like, sometimes they do have a life cycle of product, and you got to be realistic with yourself. That way you don't, you know, like, last night we were talking on Kyle's podcast, and I was kind of I wouldn't say a negative headspace, but I was definitely in a space of, what I was trying to explain to him was like, look, I'm inherently super positive. That's all I want to be. But I talk to a lot of brands, like on a personal level, like they use me to fill out the rest of the industry a lot. And so you're kind of absorbing a lot of like their insecurities, if you will. Maybe that's the wrong word. More or less their ignorance. And I don't mean that as a like you're a dumb motherfucker, like just not knowing what's going on. Right. So and when you start regurgitating that, it comes off as negative. And so a lot of them are just trying to figure out, hey, what's the market doing? Should I invest in another run that's going to cost my brand $120,000 to get all these parts? Are they going to be able to sell? Are they going to be sitting on the shelf for the next 2 years? Right. You know, and those are the kind of things that brands have to think about. Like, you know, a Nest has to think about that, you know, a Bassani and things like that, you know? And so that's where it kind of comes into play, where you're like, you start asking questions to certain people like, hey man, how's your online store doing? Oh, we're killing it. All right, cool. And then you're like, okay, well that one's not killing it, but what are they like? You start like doing these little algorithms in your head.
Like why?
What are they doing differently that we're not when we sell a similar product? Yeah, you know, absolutely. That just and before Kleen Moto, we had always talked about doing a small business. But the number one thing that was holding us back wasn't the technology or building a website or running. It was the customer aspect of it. We like to build stuff for ourselves. Yeah. And now to open ourselves up to deal with the outside and having to, at the end of the day, you need to tailor to the customer for the most part. You know, you'll always have some situations where you feel like you're right and they're not right. But for the most part, I mean, we tend to tailor to the customer.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're always helpful, willing to ask questions, but that was our biggest hang
At what
up.
point do you cross the line between being Burger King, have it your way, or like most bike shops that were started in the 70s, 80s, where it was fuck off?
Like fuck off.
You know what I mean? Because
you definitely get to that point. Like I think we try to strive to, no matter what, we try to kill them with kindness, and we got to remember, because at one point we were the customer for a very long time too, right? And we realized like we may have some questions that other customers don't have, or what have you, and we might come off that way to some other folks. So we just kind of take it all in stride, and we try to like help every customer, even though, you know, we like to provide a full like 10-page instruction manual with color pictures and arrows pointing everywhere. I mean, you'll still get that one customer that's like, well, how does this go? And it's like, man, I don't really know what else to tell you, but you got to find a way. You got to find a way to deal with that.
Instructional videos.
Tailor to the whole pool of people that you're going to run across, because for some people it's way too much information. I'm not going to read that. That's too much. It's overwhelming. And then for others, it's like, this is great. I can just follow it line by line and look at the picture, and I can. You should
give them like a little $7 Lego package thing to build like a little pirate ship.
That shit's not easy either.
Well, if they can't figure this since age 4 to
right.
Like start with this.
This is your test.
We've been nice enough to include this for you. If you can complete this Lego thing, then you can put this shit
just
together.
Give them like different levels of Lego, complexity to like, this is a Lego 35 to 99 or.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's hard.
Yeah.
But you never know who you're going to get, because you could get people that are knowledgeable, like all of us sitting here, or you could get someone who's only got Phillips and flathead screwdrivers in their toolbox.
Or somebody that honestly, you weren't comfortable with this to begin with. You're not comfortable taking off your fairing or doing this type of work. You should probably just send that down the road to a mechanic and ask them to take a look at it. There's a lot of people out there that
I wonder
think they think they should be able to work on it, and we try to make it so that anyone should be able to pick up our instruction manual and our product and install it. But there are people
problem solving thing comes back into play. Like, okay, well, I see how to do this, but maybe in the instruction it doesn't say how to get the fairing off.
Right.
And so now they're like, well, fuck, how do I figure out how to get the fairing off? And then they're like, what's that thing? It's like a video platform where like everybody
does everything.
And that's the thing.
We've got a link
that we deal with
in our instructions.
You know, that example specifically, we put a line in there like, okay, you need to take off your fairing. Here's a QR code you can scan, or here's a link that you can go to if you're not familiar with this. And it takes them to a YouTube video of someone taking off the fairing.
And it's the video that everybody and their mom probably has seen 1,000 times on YouTube.
Going back to where we work currently, our regular day jobs, having access to technical writers and people who do that stuff for a living, like, that's also helped us, because we're familiar with how to write instructions, and you know,
it's also Luke, our buddy Luke. We got to call him out, Billy or Blue.
Papa J Woodworks.
Yeah, he is a key factor in this, because we use him as our sounding board. As just the normal layman, we'll send him over some instructions and say, hey, read through these instructions. Like, could you figure this out? And not saying that Luke, because Luke is a craftsman, like he knows how to do a lot of crap. He's very skillful, but we want just somebody that has no clue what the product is, whatever we're coming out with, to read these instructions and be able to tell us, I can figure out what this means and how to do this.
That's good.
We use him as a sounding board a lot. So
that's important to have. So how did you guys meet?
We were back in the
dating
day.
App?
Yeah.
Was it?
It was the rush hour dating app.
What way are you supposed to swipe? It was the opposite, but then it went the other way, and then it matched me or some shit.
No, honestly, back in the day, we were in the tuner cars, so we were Honda kids back in the day. And then
Oh, front wheel drive.
Yeah,
That's
gotta
a
love that
freaking
torque steer.
VTEC, bro. But that's where we met, and it's just been
Did
progressing.
you walk
ever
up and
since.
see his wing on the back of the car and go, "Nice wing"?
Yeah,
See, fuck
we
that.
didn't do
weren't
it.
about
We
that
didn't.
life.
Yeah, we were about that JDM life, bro.
Yeah, you know, the super clean shit.
The super clean.
It's a nice front bumper lip. you got
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I like
that a
that.
Type R?
I like that Type R front clip.
Buddy club. We weren't
Yeah.
rocking no Wings West shit.
No, we tried to keep them as clean as possible within our means. Like,
Yeah.
I did have some fake Volk TE37s on my Acura though.
I used to love some Volks, man.
Damn, dude.
I'll have to show you sometime my 350. I had the fucking, we used to call them dog bowls because they had so much dish on the back. That big 4-inch lip.
You know, right when I started getting out of the import scene is kind of when they started doing a lot of the wide body stuff, and it was kind of like getting well before the VIP shit started coming around. But yeah, because you know I got in right at the fucking beginning of like when the drifting started to transfer over, and so you start seeing it in like Super Street magazine, and you know whatnot, and then it kind of like just started kind of blowing up. And then I was a street racer, so I was like tickets out the ass.
Yeah.
The sport bike was the way to still continue street racing,
Just not get the
but get away.
Right. Yeah.
See, we were very much, we were the pre-drift. You know, it was...
Because the first ones were Hondas. Hondas were like the ones that like really started people's eyes going onto it because they started doing LSV techs and started putting like some of the B motors and turbo in them. And, you know, I grew up with Kenny Tran, you know, from down there in Dallas,
right.
running some fucking crazy numbers on these things, you know?
Yeah,
So-
we were all like Integras, super clean, you know, dumped out on some spoon wheels and all Mugen and like EG Civic hatches with Type R swaps, with individual throttle body setups, like all that stuff. All NA, all motor, you know, not big into the turbo stuff. And then it was like a progression, right? It was all motor stuff. And then people started going to the turbo. And that's when you start getting like the Evos and the RSX Type S, people slapping turbos on those. And then the LSV techs were they were kind of the in-between, right?
Yeah.
Take that Integra LS block and slap a different head on.
They're always fast, but they're just like time bombs,
Right.
you know?
They were. You were better off just putting a motor out of a GSR and something, right? And then just running with it. But, I mean, I think I had 4 Civic SIs. Like, I went through all the variations of it. I had a coupe and then a hatch and then another coupe and then a 4-door when they finally came out with the 4-door. And I mean, honestly, my Instagram these days, when I scroll through it, it's like a ton of fucking JDM, super clean. And I even love like the Stance VIP movement. That
No, I
shit's
like
dope.
it too. I just don't. After spending a lot of time in that world and like, it's kind of like riding a chopper. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you just like one little thing you didn't do right, or something's not dialed right, or your intercooler pipe pops off in the middle of driving down the highway, and it's just like, just any little thing can go wrong.
Yep.
It's like, I think I'm gonna stick to one potential problem and not have like multiple.
Right.
Every once in a while, I'll go down the rabbit hole, and I'll be like, what are Skylines going for right now? Right. You know, because I'm like, I could fuck with like
money.
It's insane right now.
Like,
Everything is insane, man.
it is like 240s are stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A shell, we see shells for like $8-9 grand in Texas. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
crazy.
Yeah, no, I like cars a lot, but I'm just kind of past like really. I want my car. I want to blend into the world in a car, and I want to stand out on a bike.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. It's just I love motorcycles too much to have. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to have another cool car someday, but yeah, I like motorcycles too much.
I'm too obsessive over anything that I do, so I don't need another hobby. That's where I'm at. Just if something catches my eye, it's like that's all I can focus on.
Yeah, I need all my hobbies to align with the main hobby.
Yeah,
They can be sub hobbies of the main hobby.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just dumb shit. Even like, on the vehicle that you have as your daily driver, like, oh, I need to put some bigger tires on it, put some bigger tires on it. And then, like, thank God for our homies over at Rigid, because I was telling them, like, hey, man, I want to put some A-pillar lights up on my Expedition's hood. And, our homie Albert hooked it up. And, yeah, it's... You always got to be tinkering with something.
Yeah.
You can't just sit there. And
idle hands do the devil's work, man.
Right.
Got to be busy.
Yeah.
But from 10 to 11, I'm just busy watching TVs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me and my wife, we actually we canceled all the streaming platforms. The only thing we still have is Amazon, because we kind of use it for the other reasons.
Yeah.
And man, I'll tell you what, like, now there's a lot of shows that haven't come out that I like to watch, and I don't know how I'm going to feel when that comes out and I can't watch it. But for right now, it's so nice, just like finding other means of like entertainment / inspiration every night. Like because it's rare that I'm just at home sitting on the couch, and if I am, I want to be doing something that I feel like is not right. I don't want to be scrolling on my phone and getting pissed off or, up in arms about anything. And TV shows, sometimes it's like you get like, there's one good show, there's one good, episode, and then it kind of drags on. And then right when you're about to be over it, then something pops off and it drags you back into 2 more shows.
Exactly.
And you're just and then some of it's just like high anxiety bullshit the whole time. I'm like, I'm fucking wired now. I'm trying to go to bed.
Yeah.
I
can't do it, man. I
It's
can't.
2:00. You fell asleep with the remote in your hand.
I can't sit there watching TV. I feel like I should be doing something.
I'm guilty.
Which I usually should be doing something,
Yeah.
right? So I'm either out here in the garage or on the computer doing design work or whatever. So
Yeah.
I got to find something to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys have like been doing some like traveling the country, riding the bikes. Like, what made you really want to start the brand? Like, because you were coming around for quite a while before you really started to create this idea for the Kleen Moto and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
Kyron's got the good story for this, man.
Which one?
Your Smoky Mountains.
Oh, well, I mean, as far as the brand is concerned and what we started off, like the product that we mainly sell. So if you remember back when we all stayed at the cabin in the Smoky Mountains with Mark and on Big Trouble and all them.
2 houses.
Yeah, we would always end up, for whatever reason, like we'd all go out riding that day. And then some of us would break off and go do whatever rides. And then we'd end up coming back up that damn mountain in pitch black.
Yeah.
And we're out there with these stock headlights. And then there's a couple people with Bajas, thank God, because we can see far ahead of us.
dimension.
Right. Yeah. It's like, okay.
It really is.
Like, thank God
dimension,
they are behind us or with us, because we wouldn't be able to see shit out here. So finally, after years of contemplation and then that happening, we were like, we got to do something about this. And we determined or saw that these lights were coming out in the future, because we like to do things, but if everybody's doing this one thing, we kind of try to steer a different direction, go somewhere else. And we saw these new lights coming out. We got information on them and we're like, let's try to do something here. So we actually,
But it was still very much.
we
were going to do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
We weren't going to do it for anybody else.
Yeah. And ultimately what we wanted to do initially is just get better lighting on our bikes, right? I mean, a lot of our stuff comes from need or necessity. So we started doing some design work on it. And then we do, I don't know if you know, obviously we do a lot of 3D printing for our prototyping. We do a lot of rapid prototyping that way since the start of Kleen Moto. And our 3D printers are probably one of our biggest tools. So we started making mounts and all that good stuff, prototyping them out, and then making sure we got the form and the fitment right, got it all dialed in. I mean, it took probably a couple weeks to just get it to where we thought these look absolutely perfect on the bike. It looks like they belong there. So we went ahead and started producing the actual mounts. testing them out and then doing a lot of R&D. So we put them on the bikes and rode them around. We like to do that a lot. That's why it probably takes us a lot of time to develop products, because before we put anything out, like we don't want to put something out and then have it breaking on people or something happening to it, right? So we try to do our due diligence and test the crap out of products. So that mountainside, a couple of those mountainside rips back up to the cabin in the middle of the night are basically what's launched this brand. We're like, okay, we're going to do this. And then we developed this mount. It is a universal mount, so it's modular. It does fit other lighting per se, but we focus primarily on Rigid because that's the brand that we rock with, and we wanted to be different. And we knew Rigid had been in the industry for a very long time, and they had a quality product with a lifetime warranty, and that's the direction we went. So,
well, when everybody started going towards the Baja stuff, it's such a distinctive look that like you really needed some options to just, bring some flavor, right?
Right.
It's kind of crazy because in the early days of the podcast, we'd always talk about how we need more options.
Yeah.
And now we have so many options in some aspects that it's kind of like, it doesn't feel like, it's like we have more options, but we're not getting more results.
Right.
You're seeing a lot of the same stuff going out, but and not to turn that into that conversation, but basically, I remember all this stuff kind of starting to transpire with you guys, but you kind of touched on a key point that like you found something through riding motorcycles that needed to be solved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And maybe solved with your own twist to it. Yep. You know what I mean? And that's a good way to, in my opinion, it's the best way to find solutions to problems and create products, because it actually fills a void to some degree of whatever you're trying to do, right? And because you guys ride bikes all over the country, you kind of don't need to like send it to a guy like me to go, hey, go ride this all over the place and then tell us what didn't work or whatever. It's like you guys can test and tune, and it goes back into the passion of what you guys shared in the first place with that, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, one of the best examples that I could provide outside of the lighting, and us having a need for that personally, is everybody's doing all the Brembo swaps now, right? They're running all the RCS master cylinders, brake and clutch. Well, if you're familiar with those, on the clutch side, you lose all your functionality. So your clutch safety switch is gone. And we sat there over last winter, like just beating our heads against the wall. Like, how can we bring this back? How can we bring this back? And we finally tested multiple little switches, and it's just like, you're buying 10s of this product, 20s of that, and trying to test. And finally you get it. And now we have a product where you can retain all your OEM clutch control.
Yeah.
So you can start your bike in gear. You have your cruise control, all that stuff. It's just little things like that we want on our own personal bikes.
Yeah.
And don't get us wrong. I mean, there's hacks around that, but then you lose one or the other, right? Like you won't be able to start your bike in gear, or you got to choose between your cruise control or being able to do that.
Gear indicator.
Yeah, or gear indicator. Like there's different things you can do to hack the system, but it's never full on functionality. And when you put something on, you want it to make your bike better, right? And you want it to function how it's supposed to function from the factory, right? And that's what we wanted, and we figured that out.
It's always felt like a lot of people will lean into the low-hanging fruit of things to make, things that have no other functionality other than cutting it out of billet and then putting a logo on it, right?
Yeah.
And so you'll get stuff on the other side of the clutch perch all day long, but you'll never get someone that'll tackle the entire kit, right?
Yeah.
And then if you look at the older school things that were available, your Joker machine hand controls or your PMs, they're nice, but then they start to kind of be dated to like a time period in which it works for certain types of builds, but it's probably not going to look the right way on a newer modern performance bagger or performance based bike.
That was back during my time where I wasn't a super Harley fan, but I did really like that Joker machine stuff.
Yeah.
It was some good shit back then. You know? Talking like early 2000, mid 2015, that era.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's that's kind of the thing that I've always kind of wondered. It's like, you know, obviously I've never really wanted to get in the parts game because, you know, you do a podcast with people a lot of times and it's like great selling it on the front end.
Oh, yeah.
And then the cameras and the mics go out like, dude, it's fucking so annoying. It's you're waiting on this guy. He hasn't, then the anodizing guy is fucking up all these parts.
Oh, yeah,
and,
dude.
And it's just like back and forth and you just end up like I don't want to do any of this.
Yeah.
Or then you get people who buy things that want to return it and because they don't know what they're doing or they fuck it up or and it's just like a plethora of things. Dude, I don't even like selling helmets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That'd have to be tough.
You know, because it sucks because a helmet is another one of those things that fits you. Like you have to know that it fits you. And some people have heads that only a bell can solve.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And or an AGV or something like that. And the last thing you want to do is like take an order in, drop ship a helmet, and then you forget all about that situation. And 2 weeks later, when they finally, you know, or 3 months later, if they buy it in the wintertime, oh, it didn't fit, man. It's just hurting my head. I gotta return it. And I'm like, well, I can't return it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or a lot of it is simply not knowing sometimes how a helmet is supposed to fit.
Yeah.
Right.
True,
At first, like, hey, it's going to break in and then you're going to be perfectly fine. It might feel tight right now.
How many people actually ride past the break-in point of it?
That's the problem. 500 miles, 600 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some helmets that I've reached out to the manufacturer like, man, this thing is super tight. I've already got the smallest cheek pads. And they've, you know, early on, they said to me, could you chew gum if it was in your mouth? I said, no, that's how it's supposed to fit. Eventually, it's going to break in. You should be biting your cheeks, you know, the first 500-600 miles.
Yeah.
And then it's going to
be
formed perfectly. So, yeah, I mean, that would be a tough one to sell helmets. I don't think I want to be in that business.
And don't get me wrong, the parts game is...
It's cutthroat.
It's interesting. It is pretty cutthroat.
As we've all seen lately.
Yeah.
You what?
I said, as we've all seen lately, the parts game is cutthroat.
Well, it's also because like some people aren't trying to innovate. They're looking for the low hanging fruit once again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, don't get me wrong. Like, and what I'm gonna say, I mean, you could apply it to you, but I'm not really directing it towards you guys.
Yeah.
It's more like, you know, if you rely on another product to sell your product, then you're kind of like, I wouldn't base my entire existence off that.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
If you have a product that in that space to solve that, I mean, I you know, as we were talking right whenever my like relationship with Custom Dynamics started, right?
Yeah.
And which, you know, for where I'm at in life, it's more than just like I need a headlight. I also, you know, there's a financial side of this stuff on the business side and whatnot. Right. And I remember, you know, I got the photos for the CVO a little bit earlier than the rest of the world. Yeah. And, you know, one of the first things I did was I sent it to all the brands that I fuck with. Like, hey, this is coming. If you didn't know.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, the first thing I thought of when I saw those headlights on the new bike, I was like, is that the end of the Baja game?
Yeah.
You know? And then, of course, I've paid zero attention to it since then. Right. And so then you hear about all the stuff that took place at the drag show, not drag queen show, but drag specialty show. And basically, you know, and then that kicked off like some online stuff that started the next situation. And then you're just like the whole time you're thinking I'm like, you guys are all bitching about something you don't even make. Like, I want to be the guy to sell this light that's really popular. But then it's like, what happens when it's not popular anymore, man?
Right.
You know, I did a podcast with the Cut Rate, and if people haven't listened to it, please, this dude knows about the sauce. He said something that just like, I was like, oh, he said, some people are tastemakers. And I'm like, I never heard it that way. You know, we always hear
that's legit though. Yeah.
But tastemaker. And I'm like, yeah, you know, and as a guy who, you know, Cut Rate spent a lot of time of his life in Japan, kind of similar to us into the imports, followed it to Japan to do things. And so he just like, he's got his finger on the pulse of what's cool before it's cool.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's always like a pretentious thing to say, like what's cool before it's cool. because we really don't fucking know. We're all rolling dice, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it just felt like such a weird thing for a whole industry to lean into like this one item, and maybe get the wheels turning with an item, but then to start focusing more on products the way you guys have done that are more legacy products for your brand. You know what I'm saying?
And we never set out to be kings of lighting or anything like that. That was, like I said, that was just our first product because that was the first thing that we were like, we got to do something about this. So,
and I think people overall really enjoy the look of the rigid stuff and just being a little bit different.
Yeah, I did like it because it wasn't it didn't protrude so much.
It doesn't have hard edges on it, right? It's very smooth. It fits the lines of the bike, and it's a great product. But yeah, like we didn't set out to be kings of lighting, like Kyron said, and that's why you continuously see new items pop up on our site, right? Things that we use that we feel like maybe somebody else can benefit from.
You know what's crazy is right now on this podcast is right when I would put the custom dynamics. It's like right in this area is
Kleen Moto LLC.
KleenMotoLLC.com. I would also say here at that point in time that we aren't into all the little the drama. Like we stay in our corner, we do our thing, we don't care what people say. Right, we're not out there commenting on Facebook forums and Instagram posts. If I see a post on a Facebook group or an Instagram post where someone's saying, "Hey, how does this compare to X, Y, and Z brands?"
Yeah,
I'll simply say, "These are the capabilities that our product offers, and if you have any questions, we're always happy to help you out."
Yeah.
Leave it at that. If somebody tries to stir something up, don't even comment.
That was one of the biggest pieces of advice, and shout out to Bare Knuckle Paul. When we first started, that was one of the biggest pieces of advice that he gave us was to stay out of internet bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's honestly worked this whole time,
Yeah, it's definitely solid advice.
I mean, there's millions and millions of people that will see those posts, and if that kind of
the context can be like lost.
Yeah, and it represents your brand as a person too, right?
Yeah.
And your company. I think I read a study one time. It's like perception. Perception can take, if you have a bad perception or a good perception, that can take up to 7 years to change. So if you have a bad perception,
it's like an allergy.
It really is.
You get a new allergy every 7 years. So, yeah.
Well, maybe, and I'm just kind of assuming here, just through conversations I have with brands, but I think sometimes when a smaller brand goes all in on a product, like maybe through an investment through another person or something like that, then they get so defensive and so they have a lot more to lose as opposed to like, not that you guys wouldn't have those same kind of occurring costs of like investing in a run of things, but and I don't know if you're doing it through another set investor, but if you were, and now you got to make sure that dude gets his money back, it might change the mentality or personality of said person on social media, on these places. So when another brand comes out with a product that they actually did more development on, if you will.
Yeah.
Whether, and then the other thing is like, depending on how long you've been here in this industry, in the early days of the big wheel bagger things, coming off of the chopper days of like your Big Bear Performance and all those people that were like the TV bike stuff, and as a guy that's sat down with Covington and listened to them, make a part that they didn't know anybody else in the world did, and all of a sudden they get cease and desist letters.
Yeah.
Because everybody was patenting every fucking idea back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
The simplest ones. 3 variations of that idea, so there could be no other loopholes to get around it. And nowadays, like our generation doesn't look into patents at all, and they're kind of expensive. They take forever to get done, and our shit moves so fast that sometimes it doesn't even make sense to try.
And do you have the money to back it? If
that's
someone's
the
gonna
thing.
serve you a patent infringement.
Yeah.
Do you have the money to back it up? Is that
You
the
got
thing?
$20, $30, $40,000.
Or have they changed 30% of it? Because if they've changed 30% of the design, your design patent
doesn't apply.
cool, but sorry.
Right.
So that's kind of, it's just a different nature. And so, you know, it sucks, but that's just business, you know? And I fucking hate when people say, oh, it's just business. Like, if I could poke your eyes out right now, like, you know, like I hate
seriously.
that fucking statement, but
Because it's not. Because at that point, like, you're literally stealing someone else's intellectual property and trying to ride those coattails into some profit. And you're not really, there's also people that are very passionate about the products they produce, design, and make that, I mean, we're very passionate about motorcycles, and we're passionate about all the products we produce, right? Like, this is
what I loved about you guys is that I see you at places on your motorcycle. So to me, it's like, okay, well, these dudes have been riding bikes, supporting events, supporting, you know, everybody else and what everybody else has got going on, but also just being cool and being a good, positive, like, addition to what's going on. And then you start to get into a brand. It's like, fuck yeah, I'm supporting that, you know?
Yeah.
Or I want to, you know, do, like I said, I didn't know fuck you were this close to fucking 55, you know? But, you know, it's like you just see that, and then it's like, all right, well, do I fuck with this brand, or do I fuck with the one that you see nowhere outside of their little area code?
Yeah.
And they do nothing but focus all their energy onto social media because all they care about is selling more units and not being a part of the actual culture that makes people want to be a part of it, right?
Yeah, and to touch on that, like, tomorrow, if Kleen Moto went to shit, I don't care.
still doing
I
the
still got
same
motorcycles.
things.
Yeah.
I'm still going to be at the camp out. I'm still going to be at Sturgis. I'm still going to be everywhere hanging out with all the same people, riding my motorcycle. And if I didn't sell you anything yesterday, today, or tomorrow, I don't give a shit.
That's one of the
I
best.
just want to hang out.
That's one of the biggest lessons I had to learn. And because I came from the custom paint industry, the cutthroat side of it, where we were just automatically enemies through who I worked for growing up. But there was also the point where we all became friends. But then there was also the other part that's harder, that we all got to accept when the homie gets a paint from from the other dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
like,
yeah,
really?
dude, I'm looks good, man. And it's not that you hate or you don't want that, or you want to be supportive of it all, but as a person that does this for a living, you start to be like, oh, all right, yeah. I'm glad, you know what I mean? So you got to like get used to it, and it's kind of like one of those things that you'll be friends with people, but some people are still going to have Baja lights.
Yep.
Some people are going to still have, custom dynamics and whatever the case may be. And you don't want people to tribalize themselves in like, oh, I'm Team Poland. Like, I don't fuck with Jace.
Yeah.
Like, or vice versa. And you don't want to make them feel like they need to be that way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, at the end of the day, as a consumer, I think you should just pick the right person that fits what you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? You have a certain style to your paint jobs.
Exactly.
Poland has a certain style to his paint jobs. Jeremy has a certain style to his paint jobs. If one of those three fit what you're looking for, go with the one that you feel best with. If none of them fit, go with somebody else.
Exactly.
No hard feelings, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're the consumer. It's your bike.
choice.
You do what you want.
Right.
No one's going to be mad.
A lot of
about
people
it.
are concerned about what grown men are doing with their money and their motorcycles these days, and it's just like, I mean, I get it, but then it's like, but why? We're all on bikes.
I've been talking about that a lot lately.
We all love motorcycles. Okay. So
what it is, in my opinion, and no man is gonna admit to this at all. And I'm saying this because I felt that I did this at some point, right? People want people to do what they're doing to confirm what they're doing is a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you have on the daily basis the thread in the Facebook forums.
Yeah.
Which headlights should I get? What suspension is the best? What's this? Like, ask the internet.
Yeah.
No, bro. Like, do your research
lot
and
of
then
asking the internet
just
going
find
on,
out what you think you need. You know, I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing. But you're absolutely right. I think
You go to say the camp out and you get out on a rip with a couple of guys that are fast, go do the Talamina, and next thing you know, you're seeing a dude that's like ripping and maybe he's got Revo A's on it.
right.
And you're like, hey man, like I was watching you fucking just bike look on rails going through there. What, what's your setup, And then maybe on the way back, you get behind another dude with a different suspension and see how he's riding, and you just kind of like, I think that a lot of people are not putting time into the equation of the knowledge that they want.
Yeah.
100%.
And they, we went off on a tangent last night with Kyle, because Kyle was being super positive and I was being the negative. On, like the dude that gets on the Instagram and goes, hey, what shocks are those? And it's gold. And it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. Really? Fucking really, man.
Seriously, dude.
And, you guys have customer service. I do not.
Yeah.
I don't want to sell you anything except for listen to the podcast.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, I get the whole idea of customer, but I want that guy to be educated on the point of like, look, I know that the easiest thing to do right now is ask. And if I tell you the answer, it's literally the old saying of teach a man to fish.
Yeah.
And however the rest of that shit goes.
And let me tell you that you can quickly go down a rabbit hole. I mean, you'll have people that will ask you a question and you'll answer it thinking that that's the end of the story. No. Yeah. And then there's another one, and another one, and another one, and another one.
And as soon as you stop or you put a pause in that,
you're
worst
bad
customer service ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Don't have a fucking, what is it, a Yelp?
Yeah.
If you got a Yelp,
hell no.
No, dude.
No Yelps, no Google reviews.
Yeah.
None of that shit.
Yeah, it's crazy. My wife, she's a barber and she works at a barber shop where like the Yelp and stuff reviews are kind of like they put more emphasis on that than they do social media.
That drives business.
Because in that kind of world of immediate like services for, a walk-in customer kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of those get picked on based on like, oh, this place got 4 stars.
Think about it. You go to Illinois or Florida or wherever, nobody that you know is there. You can't text somebody and be like, hey, big trouble, where can I go get some good seafood in Jacksonville, right? No. You're going to look on Yelp or you're going to go to Google reviews and say restaurants near me, and you're not going to pick the 1 star. You're going to pick the 4 star, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, that shit drives business.
Then I'm
really
gonna send Big Trouble a fucking like a PayPal request for like, dude, you didn't tell me this place was fucking $50 a plate, dude.
Right.
Calm down.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. But social media too does like it anymore these days. It kind of drives business. Though.
It does.
Like
100%.
it does, especially early in the game. You've got to go out there and watch the Facebook forums and whatnot, because there could be somebody out on the Facebook forums spouting off just completely incorrect information about your product, that could turn other folks off that have no clue.
But that goes back to what I was saying. Like a lot of people will go out there and spout off about something they have no idea about simply because they went the other route.
Yes.
And they need the confirmation of everybody else to buy what they bought.
Yep.
And so they're like looking for that reinforcement. Mm-hmm. And it's so like a go to therapy kind of thing, But it's
I have multiple examples of that I could pull up on Facebook every day. Oh, excuse me.
No one goes like, well, I just like the way it's looked and I like those guys. I want to support their brand. And that was it. Dude, the lumens on this were fucking...
The lumen
it's
war.
Almost like...
Oh my God, the lumens.
X-ray vision.
If you were to talk to people that are actually in the lighting industry, and I will be 100% transparent and say, Kyron and I are not in the lighting industry. Like, we don't know that...
To that level.
Technology to that level to be speaking of lumens. But... there's something in the lighting industry where they started talking about the lumen war, right? Who's got the most lumen on paper? Like this is the brightest. It's so much more than that, and that's all that I can even say about it.
Yeah.
Because it's way above my head. There's so much time and technology and energy that goes into, putting things on paper and documenting it. And, I'm DOT approved. I have this many lumens. I have this lenticular lens and this beam pattern and yada, yada, yada.
And here's my effective lumens versus my raw lumens.
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's silly.
all of that shit. Like,
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Pick what you like.
Yeah, there's that definitely.
They're all competitive.
I think of what I hate to say it. I gotta watch what I say too, because
yeah.
We all have to watch what we say.
Oh yeah.
I think it literally comes down to like aesthetics.
Yeah, you're in a sticky situation there.
Well, it's like an aesthetic situation.
Yeah.
Like, what do you like? What look are you looking for?
Right.
Because at some point, I feel like a lot of these more off-road style lighting configurations are all going to put out a similar lumen, like baseline lumen, right?
Yeah.
And then from there
And
on,
they
it's
do,
like,
for the most
okay,
part.
like, well, do I want the one with the halo and the logo in the middle, or do I want the one that's got all the holes for the grasshoppers to hide in, or do I want,
Right.
do I want? It's like you go down the path of like, what do you want and how you want it to look, and I think that most consumers, like just baseline
Aesthetics.
consumers, don't have the eye for this kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's based on what they saw and they like that look, but then it was, you know what I mean? It was like maybe someone at bike night
Or does it look like it's supposed to be on your motorcycle?
Camera's on you. Right?
And from experience last year, Kyron and I were so many places at so many different events.
I remember when
That's a question that comes up all the time. Like, how does your light compare to X light and Z light and Y light? And at the end of the day, we tell the customer, we're super transparent. We say, this is how we compare, but it's your motorcycle.
Yeah.
Choose what you feel fits best aesthetically. I don't have anything bad to say about any other lighting company.
Yeah.
Because we're not in that business, right? We don't play those games or whatever. We just do our thing. If you like our product, buy our product. If you don't like our product and you like X product, buy that one.
Yeah.
That's great. It's your motorcycle. You're the one that has to walk out in the garage and look at it every day, not me.
Yeah.
So
on to the notion of what you just said about all the places you were last year, can we talk real quick about how awesome it was when Justin took us out for his birthday party?
hey, but the best part of that story is I drove to the wrong steakhouse in like San Antonio or some shit. I don't even know the fuck.
Well, we got the restaurant name. And we're like, cool. Type it in GPS.
Yeah.
Not knowing there was like 5 of them bitches.
We had to go all the way back.
We're like, where are you guys
Thanks,
at?
Justin.
They're like,
We love you.
Yeah.
like,
was a
where are
really
you guys
good
at?
steak.
We're at the other one.
Dude, we didn't get no cake, did we?
No, he didn't even get us.
Well, we got there too late.
They
were
did
like,
stay
get
open
the hell
for
out.
us.
They stayed open
They did
for
say
us.
it, and that was a good
Yes, thank you, Justin. That was an awesome
Thank you
dinner.
for your birthday dinner.
Yeah, thank you for your birthday dinner. He's about to collect on that shit.
Yeah.
One of these days,
Yeah.
isn't he? Yeah.
What? So y'all, you guys were at Born Free last year, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How was that experience for you?
That was amazing. So
My ass hurts.
we put together, I think a week before, we had just finished our frame up builds on our baggers, and then we decided we're gonna ride out to Born Free, and then we flew the wives and the kids all out to Anaheim. We all stayed in Anaheim, and we went to Disney during the week early on, and then did the whole family thing, and then the weekend was for Born Free, and it was a good time. The first time I went, it was right when we started the brand, and then we just randomly, my wife and I decided like it would be good for the brand to go out there. I've always wanted to go to Born Free. She's wanted to go out there, and we're like, let's make it happen. So we just loaded up the truck and trailer and drove out there. And I'll probably never, I don't think I'm going to miss it again.
Yeah.
As long as I'm living.
I've been saying this for years that like Born Free is, especially as a brand, it's like every year you go, your circle gets bigger, and so you feel more in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, that was amazing being out there. And like you said, everyone is there.
Yeah.
Everyone. I mean, everyone goes to Sturgis, but you can't really see those folks. It's so spread out.
Yeah, it's the geographical spread of it is way more than Born Free, where everybody's convened on one ground.
Yeah.
Right? And even though we didn't set up, we didn't have a tent, we didn't have a booth or anything.
You really don't have to.
Wearing our logo, wearing our brand. I mean, people were familiar with who we were. And then, we saw you out there. We saw Kyle out there. So many of our friends. Jeremy was out there. Ben Gurton, Justin, Thunder Max. All those folks, right? I mean, all those people that we fuck with. Everybody's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a push trying to, get these guys to start to lean into it because there's so much. I mean, we're even like where you guys are here, we're so far east of the Rockies that like that's a track for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like 1,300 miles, or not like right at 1,300 miles from my doorstep to Silverado Canyon.
Yeah.
Right.
Damn.
So it's not hard.
Yep.
It's 1,000 miles from where I'm at to Milwaukee. So it's, we're, like I said, Dallas is a good hub for that. But at the same time, it is good. I've always felt like that, like what you just said. It's like, you go to Born Free and you're sitting here, you're talking to Rusty Butcher, then you go in the porta potty, you walk out, and Dave Perowitz was waiting to get
Right.
you.
Right.
Like, holy
And you're
crap.
like, holy shit. All right, man, cool. How you doing? Jace, I got to pee real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Speaking of, that's a good segue.
Let's go.
I gotta
Yeah, I
pee
gotta
real
pee too.
quick.
yeah, me too.
I was waiting for it.
If you only do these things for the bike to win something or to gain admiration on social media or in your group chat, then like you're kind of missing the bigger point of what this can provide to your life experience by being a part of like riding and enjoying it and
Exactly.
all that type of shit. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I know some people will make the argument of that's your last step to your whole performance bagger. Like, that's your kit, right? You did your power, you did your brakes, did your suspension. Now you need a paint job. I mean, to me, and it's not that
I gotta learn how to do that.
it's not that
I'm a professional drinker.
it's not that the money is not there. Like, we could pay for the paint job.
Yeah.
But I don't find value in it
Exactly.
because I just ride and I like my super clean stealth under the radar. But don't get me wrong, I love a good paint job, right? All you guys painting these amazing bikes, the shit looks great. But the majority of those dudes aren't out there ripping them.
Yeah. Well, because
Some of them are. I mean, I
Well,
take that back.
no,
Some
no.
are, but a lot of
what
them
you're
aren't.
saying is exactly on the point, but it's understanding yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Why do you want this or not? You know what I mean? That's a big thing that matters. And I think that even us painters, like put it like this, all of our circles is about getting and giving these jokes.
Yeah.
Oh
Right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
And so if you're hanging out with two of the best painters in the world and this other dumbass, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you're like, we're gonna joke about the black bike. We're gonna joke about
yeah.
the solid white bike. The
Oh,
same
yeah.
way that they're gonna joke like you said jokes on the other end. But
Yep.
the point is like we're not mad.
Yeah.
We're not like serious. Like we obviously, if everybody in our little circle wanted a custom painted bike, I don't even think the three of us could actually get them all done in a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
So the thing is that paint is the ability to add a personal touch to a bike to make it stand out over the other bikes.
Yep.
Because I say this for YouTubers a lot. A lot of YouTubers want to get their, they want to have these bikes. And we did the flame job on the FX DLS Brooklyn dude's bike. And now you see this bike everywhere and it's recognizable immediately, and it's just a flame job. I didn't invent that. But the point is that bike is now connected to this brand and that helps that brand get more eyes, whether you see the logo or not.
Yeah.
And so there's ways that paint can be beneficial to people. And I've said this a lot in the podcast over the years that like me personally, I'm a minimalist. I guess why I liked Justin so much,
Don't like it no more.
That his gray bagger, when he first came to the fast life a long time ago, was like, it was like the life I wanted, but I wasn't allowed to have. You know what I mean?
Speaking of that, like I remember, was it 3 years ago when we all had those 2 houses in the Smokies, right? There were people out for me trying to get that hat trick, that whatever picture painted on my fucking bike. And Justin was like, you guys can't do that shit. You can't do that to his bike.
Yeah.
It's just like clean. And that's kind of what Kyron and I built our brand on.
Yeah.
Right?
Kleen Moto.
We don't have Kleen Moto. We don't have fancy paint jobs. It's factory paint. Yeah, we painted some accessories.
Just
to
say it like this:
match.
we don't have amazingly perfect, really nice paint jobs that would take us to the next level. We're not into this.
We don't need to do that.
No. See,
We just have amazingly perfect products. to
yeah,
take us to the
we have
next
amazingly perfect products and motorcycles.
level. Amazingly perfect personalities. that
There
take
you
us
go.
to the next level.
No, well, that's the thing that we need, though. We need diversity in that aspect, but it's also the purpose, right? If you're trying to do this bike and you're trying to go to the hardcore cycle show and you need some hardware to go home with, then you got to play that game.
Yeah.
But if you're doing this because you want to ride bikes, you want to solve these problems like we were talking about earlier, to make the ride better, more enjoyable, more safe, and all these other things, then those things that's not a priority. And I think that's the best thing to say, because most people don't say it the way you say it. They don't say, well, I don't, in my motorcycle life, that's not a high value thing for me. Right.
Yeah.
And they don't say it that way. They say it as that's just dumb.
Yeah.
It's like a projection on everybody else's decision.
Right.
Instead of a retrospective, I think is the way you would say it, of your own personal decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that I've been guilty of this. And that's one of those things I've recognized through these conversations, is that you get to this point where you start to project your ideas in a way that makes it to where other people feel like, because they might not see it that way, they're now wrong. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And like I said, paint is it's an acquired taste.
For sure.
100%. But it's also like when you have people talking shit about paint because they're not getting the attention that paint brings, then you're not playing the game of, like, you're trying to get orange juice with apples. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I get what you're saying.
But if your intentions are to do this, then you shouldn't need paint for that. Therefore, you should be content with your decisions.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, on my build, I took it upon myself to make a personal challenge to myself to see how many different shades of black and different textures and whatever of black I could put in this bike. And I did a frame off build. And when you look at these bikes, both these bikes were frame off builds, but when you look at them, only the people that know what they're looking at will know what's been done to these bikes.
So on the black paint, did you just do, surface scratch black? Or?
No,
Dusty
it was
towel
it was the
black.
dusty towel. Yeah, the red rag with no spray. No spray first.
yeah.
You just got to wipe off
Just
the
a
dust.
red fucking oil shop rag?
Dude at the fucking car wash with the bath towel.
Yeah,
His
yeah.
wife's gonna be
Now just
mad at him.
go to the hand wash one, but use the scrubber brush. on
Right,
it. Yeah.
right. Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Hey, when we rode out to fucking Cali and Born Free, when we got out there, we had time set up with the Mike's mobile detailing.
Oh yeah, that dude's rad.
We set it up. We took the bikes there, and man, he was like,
He's
"What
like,
the fuck
oh
did you guys
no.
do?" But
Like when
then
we
at
rode
the same
2,000
time-
miles,
At
dude.
the same time, he was like, "This white bike, this paint is in perfect fucking condition."
Because you couldn't see all the scratches on it.
No, dude, I fucking
No, this man.
Oh,
he's got so much wax and polish on that sucker.
He's either watching Netflix or he's out there fucking.
Right.
yeah, I'm either watching
exactly.
Netflix or I'm out there with the DA fucking.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
no, I think that's these are all like I think good things to kind of converse about, to kind of give people a perspective of like this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like being content with your decisions is a very important thing, and knowing where your idea came from to make that decision, and being able to be content with it, not feeling like you need to bounce it off somebody else or talk shit about someone else to make it valid, to validate it or anything like that. So, but the next big question is like, first off, it was like,
Here we go.
Oh God, what are we getting
Well,
into?
it's not that. It's like the FXR Tour, right?
Yeah.
So with you guys coming on board, we have, obviously you guys were reaching out. Everybody did that. Like it was, it really quickly, Justin and I realized that like there's no way that we could do this and still have friends afterwards.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're always gonna make somebody mad.
Because there's like so many people that we know and we're friends with that honestly, if we were making this as like kind of what Justin originally kind of came to me about, like, hey, let's just get some buddies together and build some FXRs. And then we collectively took it to another level, and then it kind of took that off the table.
Right.
To where it's like if we did just pick our friends all over the place, then it would, you'd have more people out there saying like, fuck these dudes, they're not out for the, you know what I mean? So
Circle.
making it where all the other builders every year have to pick a successor, like I was kind of joking in the chat earlier, like, yo, I'm not going to reach out to the guy in the group chat that's supposed to be doing his job. I'm reaching out to the guy that picked him.
Yeah.
Like, hey, dude, you know what this is about, and you need to let him know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then if I got to do it, then I'm
Holding
just
somebody else accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, well, if you decide to pick these people, then, like at the end of the day, like, I don't know if I said it this way in the email, but I think that the evolution of how it's kind of come together is like, yes, Justin and I, and, Weelo's been a big help as well, putting all this together as far as is the best we can do on the back end. But realistically, if everybody does those few little things that we have to do, then you get what you actually want out of it.
Yeah.
Because you're making the content. We're not making the content. You are.
Right.
But the thing is that we're getting people to want to look for that content.
Yeah.
And so you're getting more people that are going to follow. And then when you have all the builders doing it, more people get connected to it. And there's something about underground that means more. And if we have the Instagram pages to do FXR Tour, FXR Tour Official. But then if we start reposting it, like that's going to, it's going to take years or we'd have to spend so much time and energy, as you guys know, building an Instagram brand to get it high enough to where it would even like come close to some of the actual builders' personal or their own brand's Instagrams.
And it takes away from the novelty when you do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I don't want people to follow a page. I want people to follow all the builders.
All the builders. I think the cool thing about it is, so the first year you guys did it, right?
This is the first podcast I've gotten to do with the new FXR Tour builders.
By you guys making all the successors pick an entrant, right?
Yeah.
And then the entrants judging on the 10th builder. You're just, it's all the fingers going down into all the other potential builders, right? People that a lot of us have no clue about. So next year, when we all get to pick, these are people that you may not have any idea who they are. And it could be some garage builder out of a shop in the middle of Georgia. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? But we knew them, and we knew they do good work. Or some of the other builders, right? They're just going to, it's just going to continue to grow, and the fingers are going to spread out.
Yeah.
And then it'll just be good builders, right? It's not the popularity of builders, so to speak, so it doesn't seem like you're just picking your friends.
Yeah.
That's going to fade away really quick.
Yeah. And the point is, I mean, initially, like I said, I think that when you make anything, like you have a premise or a direction you're going to go, but then the evolution of how it unfolds really curates the true like nature of what it's going to become. Like, and I think that right now, what the FXR Tour is becoming is maybe a variant of it that we didn't foresee, but it's starting to come out based on like the circumstances of, I mean, me and Justin, like way before we, finished the last tour, we were already like, oh, who should we do next year? And I had like 5 people. I'm like, this would be good for marketing. This would be good for this. This would be good for that.
Yeah.
But then, when we started getting bombarded with people asking to be a part of it, we're like, oh, fuck, like, I'm not even making money on this. And if I pick this person, they're going to be mad at me and they're going to like hate my podcast and they're not going to want to buy Justin's parts. It's like we're gonna be like demonized and have no other like it's either they like us or they hate us, and we never got anything for it.
It's one of those things where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't in that situation. You know what I mean? It's you guys came up with something really fucking cool, and it's nostalgic, so to speak, because it brings back, like I told you, it brings back memories for me of just watching the biker build-offs on Discovery, but it's actually with really cool stuff that I love today.
Yeah, it's modern.
It's modern. It's awesome. It was awesome to watch. So you got something really cool, and people want to be a part of that. And when they don't get to be a part of it, they get kind of upset about it.
The problem is that like everybody can be a part of it. I had this conversation.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with one of the guys that reached out and made an effort to be one of the 10th builders. And I said, you know what, man? Like, let me be real with you real quick. You don't need to be the 10th builder to get this experience.
Right.
You can build an FXR, show up, and do the whole thing. And honestly, you'll probably have a better chance of getting picked for next year.
Right.
Because now some brand knows your dedication, and they're like, man, I really want to see this dude do next. The biggest thing is like, some people think that they're going to build one bike if they want to be a bike builder. And that's the core thing. Do you want to build bikes, or do you want to build a bike? If you want to build a bike, you're a customer, dude. Go be a customer somewhere else. Yeah. If you want to build bikes and be in the motorcycle industry, this is a good opportunity to be a part of that. And as a garage guy, it's a great opportunity to be in a circle with people that may, in some cases, like last year, when Ashley is in a group chat now with Bare Knuckle Paul and FXR Division and Saddleman and me. Yeah, it's like it's just fucking with you on that one, dude. No, you're good. But it's the point.
Like,
he was going. He was on a cosign.
He's like, yes.
You have this you have this ability to grow. Yeah, and
we call that in the corporate world navigating the organization.
Exactly.
It's basically Roman elbows.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about networking. 100%.
Yeah, it is. And relate like
and friendship. Right?
This is the thing about the motorcycle industry, is that in a lot of ways it's like clubs, like motorcycle clubs. Like the big clubs, the ones that run shit, typically they're quiet and they just, they sit in the back and they talk amongst themselves. Nothing is public. Nothing is really out in the open. And all the people trying to get to that thing are the loudest people, right? And so when you're an established brand and you're an established builder or whatever, like painter, like said thing, you're typically that guy that's in the back kind of like, I'm not making a scene here. I'm not in good or bad, I'm just in the back fucking, I busted my ass the last 3 months. I've been here before, I understand this process, and now I'm just enjoying my time at Born Free. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you got hungry people. Hungry people they're brash. They usually have a chip on their shoulder because they feel like they've been slighted in some kind of way, because maybe they didn't get picked or they didn't get the opportunity or whatever. And that's another thing that we've been talking about quite often on the podcast about, being content with, like, realistically, like when you put effort into being a part of this world, and if you're expecting something in this world to give back to you, you can't control that.
Right.
And you can't, I've dealt with this. I've had to come to terms with this. It's like, you have to accept that, if I want to be a podcaster or if I want to be a bike builder, I can't make everything in my life look like I'm a podcaster.
Sure.
Or I can't make everything look like I'm a painter. I have to do the thing that I want people to see me as. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so there's a lot of growth that comes into finding your place in this. And I think that a lot of people come into it as a hobby, and then they use like their fucking workforce. If they work in a place with a lot of like nagging kind of drama or, whatever, they bring that mentality into this. And they think that because they've been somewhere for a year and they got 5,000 followers that they deserve something.
Sure.
you know, and I'm as a guy that learned how to make pictures look good on Instagram and got a few followers for it. That's equated me nothing with the OGs. Nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I still got to walk into these Nesses and our Rolling Sands and, you know, yes, sir. No, I'm a big fan. You know, like I have to be the same thing that people think they need to be to talk to me, which is not the case. But, you know, it's like that. And it sucks.
Navigating the organization.
Exactly. And you can't come in here and motherfuck everybody and you're the best. And we all see how that goes. And better now than ever because now we can scroll back. You know, and you've seen them come and go. Like we've seen it. You know? And a lot of people that are new to like our world are listening right now, going like, "What are you talking about?" We're like,
"We'll find out."
Hashtag. Look at the hashtag.
Yeah, just go hashtag a little bit.
Hey, you know,
anything you guys
like full transparency with the whole FXR Tour thing. Like, we had no expectation that we were going to be picked.
Yeah.
We knew the pool.
Yeah.
We were going to build them anyway.
Were fucking huge, but these two bikes sitting behind us, they were going to get built either way.
Yeah,
and we were gonna ride along.
Yeah,
and that was what we were gonna be doing. I mean, it's good for our brand. It's also cool to go just hang out and ride with all your buddies outside of this whole, you know, organized FXR tour. And we were gonna go to Born Free, Texas, because we missed it last year, and that was what we were gonna do.
Yeah.
Like, we weren't in it. We weren't going to be salty if we didn't get picked.
Yeah.
To build on the FXR tour.
Yeah, and I like I said, I can't hit home enough that, like, you know, even like if there is, by the time people hear this, the garage builder will already be picked. But the point is like, just fucking build it anyway, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
show up.
Do it for yourself.
Yeah.
You can still hashtag FXR Tour.
Yeah.
Too, and all that shit.
It's a hashtag on
and you
Instagram,
can have
right?
all the good riding and all the good time hanging out and be a part of all the shows, or if you're interested in shows or all the events, and just be there. That's what it's about, really.
Yeah.
It's not about being picked, but like you mentioned, there is something ingrained in some people's minds that if I didn't get picked, then maybe I'm not good enough, and now I'm upset.
Well, that whole picking thing, that's an entitlement thing, you know. And as someone that's been doing a deep dive on my own like ego and my shortcomings as just a human, like entitlement looks a lot of different ways. It depends. Like, and you could put effort into anything in your life. It could be, well, I fucking took the trash out 3 times this week and she's still not giving it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's entitlement.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It is.
So there's like this perspective that I think starts to go around where
It's because you didn't rub her feet.
yeah, bullshit, dude. I did the dishes, you know, but I didn't rub your feet. I didn't
Better
wanna
get that
fucking
back
touch them.
rub, bro.
No, see, she figured you out. You said, "Oh, let me rub your back," and then she knew what you wanted. So fucking ain't nobody falling.
All I do is rub her ass when I do that anyway.
Well, you got to start on the back,
Your
and then you kind
panties in the
of
way.
like,
Pull it down. But
oh my God, are we going there?
You went there.
I didn't go there.
But you know, it is one of those things that, like, patience is something that I think I wish I had in my 20s, because
I don't have it now.
it is a you know, the thing is that, like, there's two ways that you can be a part of this thing and you can keep it alive so that you can one day be a part of it. I'll tell you right now, I at one point, one of my next big goals is I want to get good at welding, air quotes, fabricating, to a point where I would like to be an invited Born Free builder at some point, like California. That could be a 5-year thing, a 10-year thing.
Tough crowd.
But there's 2 things that have to happen for that to exist. One, I got to invest in myself to get to that level. Mm-hmm. I got to invest in the event as well so that it's there. Mm-hmm. And
Right.
so people don't think about that second one ever.
Not and again, I think there was a lot of rush to naysay or put some negative vibes out about the tour early on.
Yeah.
And that's just the thing. Like you guys came up with this cool shit for everybody to be a part of and to watch and follow along with and whatever. People just need to take cool shit for what it is as cool shit and participate and keep propping it up so that there's still cool shit to do versus boycotting it or not participating, not doing those things. I mean, it's just one of those things.
It's a rising tide floats all ships, and you never really know if when you stop supporting something that you want to be a part of and you do it out of spite because, like, I do a lot of things out of spite. But
we all do.
I do it like, I don't do it to them. I do it for myself. Like, oh, you didn't pick me? I'm going to go learn how to be a better builder. I'm not going to go sit there and talk shit about your thing because I need it to be there to show for the spike to get full.
Right.
I need.
I'm a big fan of I told you so.
Yeah.
That's one thing you don't ever want to hear this man say is I told you so.
I'm big on it. Like
it's the most annoying shit ever besides,
people
what
ask
would
me
be cool? You know what would make this really cool?
And I try and give them my advice and then, they don't take it.
Yeah.
This is called assholes. Assholes.
Assholes.
And then one day I get to say, I told you so.
Yeah. Just keep a folded piece of paper in your pocket all the time that says that.
Just hand it
slide it to them.
Yeah.
You got to put it like in your finger like that and hand it over like that where you drop it in there.
Or like you slide the offer across the table.
If you ask my opinion, I'm going to give it to you. But if you choose to go a different direction,
yeah, I can't.
I hope it works out for you because otherwise I'm going to say, I told you so.
I like how you say it in your breath.
Yeah. I told you so.
That's how I feel about people that buy track dynamic stuff.
Oh, shit. Oh, no. Oh, wow.
I'm like, whoa, did you not check the Yelp on that motherfucker?
Bro. Yeah, we'll stick with
it. Looks nice. I've never actually dealt with them.
I'll stick with old Frank on that.
From what I read, it takes a while for you to get it.
Or if you ever do. So they need they need to like come and be interns at y'all's job and get some insight onto how to handle customers
on product life cycle.
100%.
And I mean, even just talking about us, we've been guilty of releasing, like, this is one of my big things that, we take.
Can I see one of your empties?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I got a burp.
It's cool. I just do it dry so it makes people feel
I mean, one of the things that I feel like we've been guilty of quite a bit from our launch is releasing teasers or coming soons way too fast.
Yeah.
Because we're super thorough on everything that we put out and we want to make sure it's working, the fitment's great, everything. And we've been guilty of that from the start. Like, hey, coming soon. 8 months later.
And
you know what I
on.
mean? And at that point, people were like super excited and they signed up to be notified and it's just dragging on. And then eventually they've gone and just bought a different product. But that's our fault, right? But also in this world of all this performance, V-twin, everything motorcycles, there's so many people competing that one guy puts something out one day and you want to be like, hey, well, I've got this product and I've been working on it for a while, so just wait for mine,
Yeah. That's why I like being a painter, because
right? Yeah. That's the parts game. I mean, it moves very very fast paced.
Everybody's creating something new every day. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that during the day we're texting back and forth or we're messaging back and forth like, hey, let's modify this, let's make this. What about this idea? This would be a cool idea. What do you think about this? And okay, let's draw it up, do whatever. Let's print one, let's fit it. I mean, that's a daily basis. Monday through
development.
Sunday.
Yeah, product development is
7
nonstop.
days a week. We are doing that.
I love it. I think it's good. I think it's fun, and inherently it's like, maybe it's a perspective on your end. It's like, okay, you got a product. Maybe it takes longer to come to market than other people, but that teaser might also let the world know, like, hey, look, I came out with this idea that we've been refining for the last 6 months.
Right.
Exactly.
This new brand kind of could have just saw our teaser and just rushed it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is that, but like I said, it's that's the part of the performance bagger world that I've always been scared of. Once it reached the levels of popularity of big wheel baggers, is that the people that it's gonna attract, not the riders,
want it now.
the business, the business people it's gonna attract. Everywhere the pendulum swings, there is a group of people, capitalists, that come into it, and as a good analogy, it's punk rock, and then it's mainstream, and then it's punk rock in some other form or fashion. It's like it's underground, then it's not, and then and that's the whole thing with what Cut Rate was talking about, the tastemakers.
Yeah.
The tastemakers do it 2 years before the rest of the people start trying it. And
Japan.
and then the rest of the people come along,
Asia
and they
as a
become
whole.
the underground. Like I would say that us, you guys included, we're kind of the underground version of what performance baggers were.
Yeah.
But there was tastemakers in California that kind of inspired us.
Yeah.
Right? 2 years before we really started picking up the fucking torch. But we were the underground OGs. That might affect some people's perspective, but if they listen to that, don't sound clip that in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Listen to
Right.
what I just said.
Yeah.
Tastemakers came from California with the performance bagger stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We were the OGs of the underground because we made it cool. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at Kraus way back when, that's one of the first pictures I ever saw. That performance bagger that he built, right? Like lifted up, it's got fucking bars, risers on it, suspension, big brakes. Right? I saw that and it was like, oh yes, that takes me back,
This war
predated to my sport bike. Like
Yeah.
get the bike up, get big brakes, get power. I got a good riding position, all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like there are some people out there that started the movement.
Yeah.
We all just like helped grow it.
We were looking for something new at the right time and right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that whole Malcolm Gladwell book, Outliers. It's I don't know if you ever listened.
I
Or
don't read or remember.
they have audiobooks. It's kind of like a lot of he kind of does this like deep dive in a lot of different areas of the world, from the Beatles to Bill Gates to people like that, and you kind of dissect where they were at when this, and more parameters than just like he's super talented, he was born with it. It becomes like when the year you're born, the life that you had growing up, and all these other parameters. And I think that some of us were just looking for the new thing at the time, that new thing, and it spoke to us. Especially if you think about it, most of us are all in the same age group too.
Yeah.
Kyle, you, me, a lot of us are in the same age group, so we were influenced by the same shit early on.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then now, and it just like we had an eye for what was going on, and we picked it up on it.
The cut rate makes a good point, like you said, around the whole tastemakers. I mean, if you just transfer that over to even like trends, especially in like the fashion industry, everything is bred over there in the Far East, right? They're doing that shit in Japan and China and everything years in advance before it makes its way all the way around to the United States. So like a lot of the fashions and trends that you see now, that was a year or 2 years ago
Exactly.
overseas.
So yeah, there's just a lot of cyclical things that go on in this world that I think that the way the glasses we all, like normal dudes and chicks, wear to look at it, we don't understand the nature of these things.
Right.
We don't understand the nature of how we're influenced and things like that and whatnot. And to me, it's like, as I do more podcasts and get into deeper layers of these people that I get to talk to, you find out more shit, and you're like, oh shit, like I've done 3 podcasts with Oliver from the Cut Rate before, and he's a big fashion brand in Japan, and like talking about that, it's like, fuck, like, oh shit, like you just found the corner of this puzzle that I couldn't find. You know what I mean? Like, you brought it together and whatnot. But back on the tour stuff, I mean, with with the builds, like we were kind of chatting a little bit before you showed up, like the put, like you already had these FXRs, right?
Yeah.
You already had intentions of doing these, and it was like you just said, happening or not.
We were going to do it whether or not.
Pretty much.
What was the inspiration to jump on these platforms rather than picking up another bagger? And to be honest with you, I'd love to maybe you have a race bagger.
You want to buy it?
I mean, I don't. Is it for
man.
sale or is it like you just pick it up?
Oh, it's definitely for sale. Like,
Yeah.
so on the race bagger, that was delusions of grandeur. I thought I was going to be a. I thought I'd see. Here we go.
Talk about I told you so.
You got to slide it. You got to slide it across the table.
I thought I was going to race in the bagger racing league
April
because
last year.
everybody's like, yeah, let's do this, and it got hype. And quite honestly, I feel like, don't get me wrong, I love motorcycles and riding motorcycles. Probably riding them is probably like the top, and right underneath of it is building them, wrenching on them, doing whatever.
Yeah.
So quite honestly, I think I fell in love with the idea of building a race bagger, but I was going to have a race bagger, and then we started a business, and then that kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
Because that no longer became important. Making product and developing product and doing R&D on products was the most important thing to me, and I found kind of more
Do you think that
fulfillment through
any
that.
of the lack or any part of the, I mean, we were talking about it last night with Steve Chamberlain and Kyle about how 2020 was kind of it was a peak, but also a plateau.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of like, especially this side of the country,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where in 2020, we all went fucking hard in the paint, riding, doing shit. That was Smokies. That was actually Smokies. The first Smokies was 2020. The second one that I went to was 2021. And then you had this racing thing that came out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And then 2021 was racing, but then it just never. I think that it was such a hype, and we were already kind of like, we're the performance bagger guys. So it's like, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
This is what we're going to do.
but it just never like there was things that they didn't do on their end, in my opinion, that kind of like stifled the growth of that thing, you know?
Right. And at that point in time, I mean, I think a lot of it too is coming off of 2020. We'll be fully transparent, man. I mean, during that year or just the year before, we had to essentially all of us in our company, especially those in tech positions, had to re-interview for your current position. So there was kind of a thought process there that, you know, like, whereas I always thought like, this is a company I work at, I'm going to work there for 500 years, retire, whatever. That wasn't the reality anymore. The possibility was that all this could go away.
Yeah.
And I realized that I was investing so much time into developing things for another company and not putting any time into my craft or my passions or any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I realized I need to change this. And then Justin, I think, was probably at the same point, and we had been developing products for a very long time for our own bikes or whatever. There's just one-off pieces and things. And we decided, well, let's do this. Let's go for it, you know?
I think COVID allowed us to do that, right? So we were going into the office every day, and then when COVID hit, remote work, okay, now you have the opportunity to work at home, right? You can build your brand, build your website, build an e-commerce platform, right? Now you can start selling products, you can rapid prototype, you can do all those things from your home. And I hope none of my people that I work with ever see this.
Well, we don't do that during the day.
We don't do that during the day, obviously. But yeah, I think COVID opened that door for a lot of people, not just us. Just
a little closer.
I think COVID opened that door for a lot of people, not just us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, having the ability to work remote allowed people to start their own businesses.
I mean, if you think about
their passions.
I didn't experience that because I was already in like a self-employed thing. And it was kind of like status, like the same fucking thing for me. It's just like, oh shit, I can't eat Chipotle right now.
Right.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
But for everybody else, I think it was like oh shit, I don't have to commute for an hour today.
Right.
I got a little bit of extra time. I can knock this out real quick, and then I don't have to drag this thing out for 8 hours.
Yeah.
I'm actually proficient enough in my job. I can do it in 4 or whatever the case may be, and you get more free time, and you can devote that. And that's, the podcast was going pretty strong in 2020.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I picked up photography in 2020, and I was telling people on the podcast in 2020, walk out of this with something. Don't look at it like, oh shit, like
the world's shut down.
we got a substitute today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, look at this as like, okay, now I didn't have any other free time, but it's almost like I looked at it like, okay, well, the rest of the world's probably going to take a step back. I'm going to take a step forward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And with that concept, it was like, and I think we all did that, writing and just getting out and be involved. It's like, okay, well, yeah, we could not do anything.
Well, and I mean, you said something there like, I'm going to take a step forward, right?
Yeah.
And that was the opportunity that we took too. Mm-hmm. We could have just sat back in our old ways and got comfortable and did the same job that we were doing, going into the office. But we saw it as an opportunity to finally like make something happen, right?
Yeah, you have a little bit more freedom now, maybe a little bit less bandwidth because of the commuting or whatever the case might be, peeled back, that you can put that extra CPU towards an idea.
There are tons of like software developers and software engineers that are working multiple careers. Mm-hmm. Now that they work from home or a remote location and they're not tied to an office building, they're rolling 2 9-to-5s, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're pulling dual incomes, probably making God knows what, $150,000, $190,000 a year, pulling that from 2 companies at the same time.
Well, it's smart because if you really if you peel back the old mantra of the traditional business model, I'm going to pay you a salary. I need you for a minimum of 8 hours a day. Sometimes if you're a shitty company, I'm going to get you for fucking Saturday too.
But you're going to complete that work in 3.5, 4 hours.
So the realistic thing is like, okay, well, maybe I don't need $100,000 a year from you for this, but how about we do a contract for the thing that I do for you that I can do in 4 fucking hours a day, or 12, 16 hours a week, and you pay me this much for that, and then I can open up my doors to other people. Maybe not a direct competition, maybe there's still a no compete clause kind of situation, but it's kind of like if you make, let's say you're a video editor, and that's another big thing that came out of 2020, and that's why you see a lot of brands now making YouTube content, but they're not the actual ones editing the content.
Right.
A Cruzy has a guy that films, goes home, makes the content, they put it out. Cruzy sells more products.
We're guilty.
Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, my brother.
Kyron's brother. What's his handle?
It is. Yeah, you would put me on.
Fucking.
It's Bleed at TV.
Yeah.
Bleed at TV.
Yeah. That dude is a monster.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Because if you really just buckle down and you actually make yourself work 8 hours a day, you'll be surprised at how much you can get done.
Yeah.
As a guy that's self-employed, yeah, I work 10 hours a day, but then let's just peel back all the little bullshit in between everything. 6.5.
Yeah.
Why doesn't my AGV fit right?
Exactly.
Right.
Hey, man, what color was that on that bike?
Yeah, right.
It's this color. What's the code? I'm like, oh my God, dude.
Do you give that information out freely?
Yeah, man. You're not allowed to not do this shit, man.
Oh, you're not allowed?
No,
like
because
you can't hide? You can't
No.
not tell them? Are these other painters asking you, or just individuals.
Who knows?
Oh,
There's no context in a lot of the messages, and sometimes people's stuff is private, or sometimes it's an email, and it's overwhelming amount of questions. You know what the asshole in me wants to do? I only answer Patreon questions. And I want a tier for answering questions.
Right.
well, you can
What
create
fairing
those
is that?
subscriptions and
Well, I have. I got a
Instagram,
whole
yeah.
I don't want to do it on Instagram because I want people to go to Patreon because I can give them more value on Patreon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so my thing is like, well, how much is this idea worth for you? You know what I mean? The thing is that I'm from the hood, and I grew up with the game is to be sold, not told.
Yeah.
And I love that idea. But also, the game's been given to me in certain aspects, and I want to do the same giving back. But, you know, there's a lot of people that don't have I don't see my drive in them. You know what I mean? And so I have a hard time giving them my earnings when I don't see them putting in the same effort.
Yeah.
And
Ask holes.
ask them. It's kind of
they're
unfair
gonna do
in my
something
opinion.
different anyways.
Yeah.
But it's like inherently, you know, I've carried a mantra, or I don't know if mantra is the right word. What does that fucking mean anyway? I've carried
That's like your
it's not who I think I am.
Yes.
I think it's like the persona that I've put out of being just an asshole because I don't give people that much of my attention unless I'm interested. But that's just human nature, right?
That's fair.
Why am I supposed to give you all the time of day because you follow me?
I definitely have a persona of being an asshole.
Yeah.
Just because I just like, and it's not anything against anyone. I'm just one of those people, like, I don't need to conversate with you if I don't feel like I have anything valuable to add to the conversation. Like, if I don't think we have anything in common, I'll give you a shot.
Yeah.
Like, we can talk, we can chat, and then, but if I don't feel like I'm contributing anything to you,
If we're
then
not
I'm
playing
just kind of
tennis,
quiet.
if it's not bouncing back and forth, and you're not saying something that's inspiring me with a new idea to come at, and we're not having a verbal, like, not a match, but like a verbal, like, oh shit, like, I want to finish this conversation later, dude. Find me-
Right, yeah.
I got to go say what's up over here in the camp out, and then I'm gonna come back. We got to
Get a
talk about this.
burrito and some fucking chili max or whatever.
There is that, but you know, I get it from all angles, but at the same time, I wish that like it was just easier to, you know, like some guys like Justin Kelly, hang him high. He can go out there and tell the world like, hey man, it's Sunday. And everybody's like, my bad.
Yeah.
I say it's Sunday and they're like, question mark.
Yeah.
Like
right.
what? And?
Hey, what color was that paint code?
And so the code is?
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh fuck,
Is
man.
my
Like,
helmet done yet?
but I don't want to have to go through what Justin went through. Thank you for your service. To have that kind of like, you know, like just respect across the board, you know, which means I guess I don't deserve it, but whatever, you know, it's like, it just sucks that like, you know, when I first got into dynas, you know what I mean? It's naturally, it's the inclination of like, hey man, where do I get these bars? What kind of bars are those? Because they're not common things, right?
Yeah.
But you learn quick that like, you know, you ask certain people or maybe you made relationships, and I certainly had because I was in the motorcycle world, as opposed to if I was watching Unknown, started following this shit, decided to get a bike, and next thing you know, I'm like, hey man, you know, Unknown has too many followers to ask these questions. I'm going to ask you, and if you don't tell me, you're an asshole, and I'll hate you for the rest of your life and never like anything you ever do.
I will tell you that, God, I hope our wives don't watch this. Kyra and I have wasted a lot of money just learning from our own mistakes.
Same.
We're just like, it's almost, and maybe it's me, but I feel like I'm too proud sometimes to ask the guy who's popular, that has the popular stuff, hey, how does this work for you? How did that work for you? And instead, I'm just over here like throwing my ideas off him saying, what do you think about these bars? Maybe these risers. What about this suspension? All right, well, you buy it first.
Try it out. You first.
You try it out. Let me know how it works out.
But I feel like that's more fulfilling.
It is.
It's
actually
100%.
it's actually helped a ton because then,
Yeah,
later on down the line,
Yeah.
when folks ask us questions or whatever, chances are if we honestly give you an answer, like we're not going to tell you something
We've
don't know
ran
about.
it.
Chances are we've either tried it, ran it, and we had X, Y, and Z problems, or this was great about it, and we'll be able to tell you because we went through it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Mark at Texas Performance. Like he didn't sell any products that he doesn't run or hasn't tried out or thrashed or whatever, and that's kind of helped us in the long run if you think.
Yeah,
about
so it's like putting in your time, like doing, like putting in the effort, and then I get asking. Most of the questions are the things that are kind of personal. Like most of the questions are, hey, helmet, bars, seat, whatever. Yeah. And the problem is that like what works for me does not work for you all the time.
Right.
But as someone that also ran 3 different seats, ran 3 different sets of bars, if you ask me the right question, I can give you the right answer.
Right.
But you haven't done anything to ask the right question. So your thing is, what bars are those? Realistically, what you want to know is, I'm buying my first one, or I'm trying to dial something in, and I'm looking for this aesthetic, but this is what I want to feel.
Right.
And I can tell you that with this bars, you're going to feel this. How tall are you? I'm this tall. There's a real conversation that we had, but how you come at it, it's how you get it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
all that stuff is
I don't
subjective.
give a fuck about customers. That's not asking what kind of bars those are, what headlight that is not fucking being customer service.
No.
That is you being a lazy fucking asshole.
I'm like, dude, all the information, every bit of information you want is out there.
I'm fucking 5 beers in right now, so fuck you too.
I do hate all those posts every day that just flood all the Facebook forums that should be beneficial to everyone. Someone asking, hey, what do you think about these Olin's HDO 44s? Like, oh, they're great, right? Like, you're going to get 9 million people that say that they're great, and then you're going to get Kyra and I to post in there and say, fucking buy some race decks if you want to. It's like, go buy it and try
100%.
it. And then I went in there and was like, buy some race decks.
Yeah.
They had a 5.0 rating on
Right, yeah.
4.9 now.
But you know what? But I am gonna be super serious on this one. I've had a lot of seats on my motorcycles, and the Lapera. Dante hooked me up with the fucking Lapera, and that thing is comfortable as shit. Rode that thing 4,000 miles to Cali and back to Illinois, and I love it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I really do love it. That's legit.
I don't know. I was gonna say the same thing. I love those seats too. But that's case.
I'm not sponsored by a seat person. I can say whatever I want.
No, I'm not sponsored by. We're not sponsored by anybody. Honestly,
I've had a couple of different seats on my bike. That's no plug, and that Lapera. Like,
I did the same thing.
Super fucking happy with it.
When I first bought my first Dyna, I tried a BMC seat, which is made by Corbin.
You gotta edit out the pause where everybody was quiet.
Yeah. I would say this about Lapera, and obviously I have a really close relationship with Arlen Ness and Corey, and Miss Lapera is a thing.
Yeah.
And so there's always been like this idea for it, but it's like
yes.
Aesthetics though. For me, the aesthetic of the Lapera versus I've always loved the Lucky Dave, and it's kind of like been, I've never ridden the Lapera, so I can't speak on comfort. Lucky Dave has always been super comfortable to me, and it's a fucking Saddleman seat. It's just a little bit different shape than what Saddleman offers, right? Yep. So the quality of a Saddleman seat, but a little bit different shape and aesthetic from a Lucky Dave, right? And my thing is that like, I came from a world where we made seat pans and we put an inch of foam on it, and then it looked badass, and we just rode it.
And your ass hurt.
Yeah. And so and my ass still hurts. I mean, dude, I can sit in my Jeep with air in it and a heated seat. And after a couple of hours of driving, I'm sitting on the side of my cheek the same way I do on my bike.
Yeah.
I mean,
doing some road yoga.
To be fair, our Lucky Daves probably had, I don't know how many miles on them. And then we had also switched to mid controls during that, like right before that long ass ride. So the Lucky Daves had us in a different position than we needed to be for those mid controls down and back versus up and forward.
Yeah.
And that just put everything in the bind.
I mean, I had a Lucky Dave's forever. Aesthetic wise, don't disagree with you at all. Comfort wise, with the mid controls, and then obviously the seat that I had designed through LaPera, like night and day.
Yeah. I don't know when you get to a point of like any kind of notoriety when you get to go into a company and say, let's do a seat together. I don't want to sell anything. And I keep having this conversation with brands that want to do campaigns and shit together, is that they want to give me affiliates links, right? And they don't understand that, all right, clearly you've been dealing with YouTubers.
Yeah.
I've been in the motorcycle industry for 20 years.
Yeah.
I've sold drag specialties. I've been a part of everything. And you want me to take 20% of a 40% margin to sell your shit with a link rather than me just being a dealer and selling for 40% margin.
Right.
Like, what?
Right.
And, or, to me, it's like, I want to focus on doing a podcast. I don't want to sell your product.
Right.
I want to market your product.
Yeah.
Right. I want to make people see that I use it and I accomplish said task by using your product, and that's it.
Yeah.
If I got to go and if you give me an affiliate link and 1 month I make $6,000 selling your product, that becomes my new baseline because I'm a fucking capitalist.
Right.
And then every month that I don't hit $6,000, I'm going to do something out of character to make $6,000.
Right.
Therefore, I start becoming what I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Unauthentic.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then you get
salesman.
You go down this path, and it's like, no, I'm traveling on motorcycles. This is what I got to pee too. So. My story's not that good. So
No, it's good. It's good. It's good.
Hour 1 and then stitch it together with hour 3. Most of the time.
Well, that's kind of part of the concept of separating from, having, put it like this, to take a video podcast and kind of just chop it down. I can do a quick version and I can have it ready to go up to YouTube in like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Or if I spend a whole day on it or 2 days on it, I can really cut out a lot of the going nowhere stuff, concise it down and make it more palatable for new audiences and get more eyes on it, But in order to take 2 days of your life to edit a podcast,
right?
We're adults here.
Yeah,
I think we all should understand that. Like, put like this. All right, this might have to get cut out.
Put it in there.
Leave it.
Everything that I do to the outside looking in looks easy. The camp out, the podcast, maybe not the paint to some degree, but most people, they experience those things through whether they've been on the podcast or they go to the camp out and they want to do it again on their own end somewhere. And I don't blame them for it because I think that inherently for some people it does become easy.
Right.
Craig did a great job with his down south camp out. But I think for the most people, it shows me that they think that everything that takes place is easy. A podcast is difficult because you have to constantly make it, you have to think about the audience and your guest.
Right.
The guest, it's important that you steer the guest in the right way to make not only, put it like this, you have to steer the conversation with the guest to where they become more comfortable and happy and start saying more.
Right.
But also in a way that the listeners are engaged. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you fucking hit it out of the park. Sometimes you don't. It's something you don't really have control on. You can just nudge it. It's like, it's like jets on a fucking, a spaceship, right? You're just trying to here and there. Right. And what people see is 3 people sitting across the table from each other, drinking beers and just reminiscing on some times we've had, some ideas we have, and some things we're doing. Right.
Hondas. Right.
Yeah. Hondas. And so it looks easy. Like, I can do that. Yeah. And so people, once again, like we said about paint, they don't value it because it looks easy. I'm not going to support that. Anybody could do that.
I won't downplay that for 1 minute because I could sit across the table there and be funny and ask you, tell me about yourself, whatever. But yeah, outside of that, it's, what else am I going to say to you?
What do you do whenever what do you do when you sit down with a legend in the motorcycle industry and you ask that one simple question and you don't interrupt them, you don't interject, you don't do those things, you just let them tell a story, and then you're in the podcast for 15 minutes and this dude just gave you 30 years of his life. Yeah. Because most people don't think about the details of their life. Yeah. You have to extract the details. Mm-hmm. They're going to give you this
high level overview,
and you got like,
you're missing all the
what year was this? 89? Mm-hmm. What was it? Man, Ninja Turtles came out around that time, right?
Yeah, right.
Did you have kids? You got to find these things through research you do about the industry and all these other aspects to connect with the person and bring things out. And there's times when I come into shit super ready. There's times when I come to things in very unprepared. Like yesterday, not having my products that I needed to do.
Impromptu, yeah.
So it's not like every time you hit it out of the park, but at the same time, it's not as easy as you think it is.
Reading your audience, though, so if you have someone very proficient in the motorcycle industry that you don't have a connection with, you don't run in the same circles, you probably need to come very prepared. Yeah. Come to a place, you went to Kyle's, right? You had a podcast with Steve and Kyle. Very low key, personal. Same with us, right? Mm-hmm. Us. Yeah. It's just shoot by the seat of your pants, whatever. But yeah, it's different every audience.
On the back half of this trip that I'm on, I got to sit down with people that I've not really ever met in person. Yeah. I only know them through as a fan. Mm-hmm. So I have to immediately, as soon as hey man, what's up? I'm Jace. I have to start reading this person. Yeah. And trying to understand the other thing about this, maybe the deeper connection that I don't think people realize is that being a custom painter for the last 20 years of my life, it's not about the paint. It's about the customers that I've had to read the personalities. And so you see similarities in people's personalities. So you kind of know the vibe. It's judging. It's a lot of things that you shouldn't do as a human. I bet this guy smokes weed. It's that kind of shit, right? But the point is that you have to figure it out because I know I'm friends with, and I've been around so many different types of personalities. I know kind of the vibe to carry with that personality. Yeah. So if you think you can do all that and do a podcast and to you, bro. Do 300 fucking something episodes and sacrifice, relationship time and all this shit that goes along with it when your wife's like, hey, it's our date night. And I'm like, well, this guy's in town. So I got to do this podcast. It's all out of context. And then if you start putting all that stuff out there the way I'm doing it right now, it comes off like, woe is me.
On your Patreon.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, support Jace because he's losing his fucking mind. But realistically, I'm fucking losing my mind half the time. It's like you're the problem is that people aren't really in control the way they feel like they used to be.
Oh yeah.
They follow everything through platforms, and the platforms give them something, right? Algorithms control more in our world than anything before. So people like our podcast, but podcast apps are now starting to apply algorithms. So they're not even getting the podcast fed to them anymore. Yeah. Right? So the reason why we're pushing Patreon is because I want people to like, just be connected with the community. We've always had a community, right?
Yeah.
But now it's like, all right, well, I guess we got to put a fucking paywall here and things like that. But it's different. You know what I mean?
If I was to revisit,
here we go.
Like
This will be a 5-hour podcast.
like your ability to
With my shirt.
just talk to people, right?
Yeah.
Your ability to talk to people, you have different audiences, and everything is weird. It could be weird, not everything is weird, right? We're not weird. We know each other, but if you go to somebody who's high up in the industry, they've been there for 30 years, and you're trying to get their story, maybe you come into that conversation, you're kind of nervous, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what to say. You don't know what to ask them. I think a lot of that attributes to COVID, and I'm gonna revisit that because a lot of people are now not in public with people on a regular basis. A lot of these socializing and social cues, social aspects, fucking the ability to just socialize with people in general over the past 3 years is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people out there these days that they will go and they'll have to meet someone in person. They don't know what to say. Like all that existed before. We had to go, we had to talk to people. You had to, whether it was in your job or you owned your small business, you had to sell yourself, you had to sell something. You knew how to talk to a person. And there are a lot of people these days that just don't know how to talk to people.
Yeah. A good example of what you're saying right now is that basically, like, for instance, this is the first time you guys have been on the podcast. And you kind of made a joke out there like, oh, the nerves are gone now. Like, well,
yeah,
I see those nerves. And so my job is to make you feel as comfortable as possible.
Sure.
It's even harder when people don't want to drink.
Yeah.
And when they don't want to drink, their nerves stay there for so long. Right. And so what you have to do to kind of like push past that is you have to use your facial expressions.
Yeah.
When they're telling you something, whether it's sad, exciting, or they're not sure if it's interesting, the way I look at them gives them reinforcement to what they're talking about.
Sense of comfort.
Yes. And so you have to, like, these social cues is what we're talking about, is something that you have to keep in mind while you're doing these episodes with people that are maybe not that, they've never told their story before. They've never been, you're sitting in here and there's cameras looking around, but it was hard enough just with microphones in front of you.
Yeah.
Right. So these things that you don't get extra money by being better at it. Right.
Right.
But you get more substance by being better at it. Mm-hmm. And then the people that a podcast is a funny ass thing, right? Because it's relevant and the most important thing in the world to the person it's most important to. So it's not like a piece of social fucking historical things that's taking place right now. And if you missed it, it's not Cat Williams on fucking the Homeboys podcast a couple of months ago or a month ago, right?
Hey, he'd be lighting some people up, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He don't fuck around.
But that's watching a dumpster fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, are you inspired by that? Or are you just like, are you still just driving by the wreck on the highway and you can't stop looking at it?
Just gives me a laugh.
Yeah.
At the end of the
Exactly.
day.
So when you think about a podcast and where the inspiration can come from, it's based on where the person listening is at in their life, right?
Right.
That's true. Very true.
And
100%.
so some people, they listen to this podcast out of hate. Fuck that dude.
Really?
I hate him. I'm going to listen to what he's doing right now so I can fucking hate him later on.
People do that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm pretty sure most people that hate on things, they're following you on
They're doing
social media. They're watching your
haters.
podcast. We're all haters at the end of the day,
At the end
right?
of the day, we're all haters.
I mean, I hate on shit. We hate on shit together.
All day.
But, it's whatever.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's human nature.
It is human nature, but the thing is like, aren't we supposed to like? I think we're all so convoluted with like ideas of how it is to be like an adult, a man, a human, and I think half of my adulthood teachings were through rap music. The other half was through like women that I tried to get with, and the other half is like,
hey, like Too Short said, you should be getting it. Get it while you can. It's good.
somehow that makes sense. What was the Dave Chappelle skit? That is actually correct too.
That is actually correct too. You gotta put that one in there.
Is pimping easy?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yes.
It's actually correct.
That's your outro. You should be getting it. Get it while you can.
Man.
It's good.
Anyway, I think the situation at hand or whatever, it's like like I said, back to like FXRs and shit, like the concept behind it, I think what me and Justin really dived into was trying to create what we had all have. You guys were part of that circle of friends that was, doing the camp outs, doing the performance bagger shit, showing up at Smokey's, showing up at, Tommy's, Mama Tried stuff, like all these things that we were doing. We're trying to create this feeling of connectivity that we had through building a bike. That way it was never about like being like a competition about building a better bike. It was about the camaraderie of building amongst your friends to hopefully show up at said location with your friends to go enjoy this process together. And the crazy thing is like how hard that's been to retrain people, because most people do not listen. They don't listen. They don't read. They don't fucking do anything.
No,
they just look. They are fucking they are picture book people. 100%.
I think very much people think that it's a competition, right? There's 10 people out there.
Yeah.
And who's going to build the best absolute fucking FXR motorcycle at the end of the day? But I also don't think that it's necessarily those people's frame of mind. It's who you have picked, right? We're all motorcycle builders at the end of the day. We build shit to the best of our ability, and we want to build the greatest thing, and we're hoping at the end of the day that it's better than the next guy's. But it's not a competition.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be looked at as a competition, but that's just like, as a man, at the end of the day, if my neighbor fucking has nicer grass than me, like, I'm angry, right? Well, actually, I'm not angry because I don't give a shit about my yard.
I'm glad you're doing that, because I'm just letting my shit go to dirt. Like, fuck mowing yards.
But as a person in general, like, there's a sense of competition to everything that you do. Like, if you were picked, hey, these were the top 3 people and you got 3rd place, like, that affects you.
Yeah, when you, it's essentially a trophy for everybody, right?
Yeah.
But realistically,
a trophy for everybody still affects you, because if everybody got a trophy, but you got the 3rd place trophy, it's still affecting you.
Well, okay, let me peel back another layer of this onion as to why I came to some of the ideas behind this tour, and not saying just solely me, but just like in general, right? Most of us grew up watching or hearing about Biker Build Off, all these other things, right? And then you hear about, like, through happenstance of being around these circles, you hear about so-and-so that built a bike for IMS and it was the biggest thing in the world. And he went to Germany and blah, blah, blah.
And you looked at it and you were like, that ain't shit.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's not, the thing is that, like, there's a fine line, building motorcycles is pretty much art, and art is subjective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Art is literally the eye of the beholder, is 100% it. The same way many things are, design, some women are more attractive to men than other women, and men vice versa, right? Sure. It's all subjective to like people's tastes and their opinions, right? Music, you know what I mean? And so motorcycles are no different. So when you take one bike, one frame, and you ask people to build the best thing possible, what are the parameters? Because subjectiveness comes into play when you're putting in style. Mm-hmm. Now, I would completely not argue with the fact that on the first year's tour, FXR division, Justin My Machinist, Corey Main Drive, they built perfect bikes. Mm-hmm. But they also used a perfect motor.
Right.
They used modern shit. Everything about those bikes were perfect.
Yeah.
And not even what I just said might sound like it's like talking shit. It's not. It's like they built beautiful things. So subjectively, how do you have something that's imperfect, kind of questionable, but still solving the problem? Right. You know, do you want a perfect wife, perfect body, tits, ass, all this nice shit? You know, personality, like there has to be something not right here. We're human nature knows that there's something missing. And maybe the argument for a perfect bike, the missing element is connectivity to the mechanicalness of it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's like, oh, this bike, you know, I built a perfect motorcycle. It didn't leak, didn't have a problem starting, ran perfect, had a great time. I don't know. I'm just not interested in this anymore because you had no challenge. You had the challenge of building a bike and then the challenge of riding it. If you make it too perfect, then it's like boring.
Yeah. But see, the challenge here is, I mean, so even though the
perspective though.
I'm with you. I'm 100%, with you.
100%, yeah.
To me, you know, even though there's been a lot of M8 FXRs done now, you know, after FXR division started.
FXR Tour 2 is basically the M8.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean,
there's a few stragglers
cool
in there.
But, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, even though there's a lot of that being done, there's people that on this tour that haven't ever done those things before.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll tell you what, like it's been a pleasure getting back to actually doing the type of building that we're doing here. We're like cutting up frames, doing all these modifications to the frames. And now we've got a new skill set, obviously, designing parts and like drawing these parts up and then having them manufactured out of thin air, basically something from your brain shows up in metal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So this is a new adventure for us. We've never gone back and done like sheet metal work and all that stuff. So we're also learning in this process as well, and like growing.
But how fucking badass is that
school? It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing a lot of welding prior to this, but I mean, not very good. And shout out to my welding instructor, Al Hackle. He's helped me along. Al Hackle.
He did build one of the Born Free. He was in who's the people that put it on all the choppers and shit.
Oh, the People's Choice.
People's Choice.
Yeah.
Born Free, People's Choice. He was one of the builders.
But yeah, he's my welding instructor / mentor / friend that built a bike for Born Free last year. But he's been actually helping showing me the ropes on like TIG welding and stuff like that, and getting me a lot more up to speed than I have been in the past. And not doing it, actually showing me the ropes on certain things. And I spent probably a couple hours out at his house the other night, and he welded in one panel for me and then showed me how to do that.
Exactly.
And I knew I could do that. And and I brought it back home and filled in the rest. And then the rest is history. The cool thing about not knowing how to do something is we have enough friends in this industry that know how to do something that we can ask questions of, like, hey, I'm to this point, like, how do you do this?
Exactly. So that is exactly what this tour is about from my perspective. Now, Justin is probably going to have a little bit of a different perspective, and that's the good thing about having a partnership where you have two different, entities with ideas, right? Mm-hmm. And my thing was, when you're building a bike, it's like, okay, you can build what you can do, or you can go out of your comfort zone. And because there's not a competition involved, the competition is yourself. Mm-hmm. How do you make yourself do the best thing you've ever done before?
Exactly. And that's kind of where we're at. We're trying to grow our skills a lot more. Because at the end of the day, knowing how to weld and do all those things can it just takes your building to the entirely new level. Yeah. And having the ability to draw those like the mounts, for example, the mounts, the pivot blocks and the triple trees and all of the other different things that we're going to draw and design for this bike and then have produced, that it just adds to your repertoire.
And it's 100% two different variations of like motor mounts and just trying different things. Like this bike over here, that's not our FXR Tour bike. Mm-hmm. Has a completely different mounting system for the front motor mount on a Milwaukee 8 than this one does. So it's just trying different things constantly. We're sitting here, we're sitting out there on a Saturday night, and we're like, oh, fuck, let's try this. All right, drill these holes. Let's put these bungs in here. And, maybe on this one, let's try and reuse the factory mounts.
Yeah.
And we figured it out. It works. We can use the factory floorboard mounts on the front and then just
make it work. Yeah. Well, that's the point, man. That's the whole point of this whole thing is, and that's what, when I first asked Rennie to be involved in it, and he said it very eloquently on the podcast that his first initial thing was like, yeah, I fucking deserve it. But then he came back and he started like, man, like, holy shit, like the rest of the builders, like who I'm with. And oh, man, like
a lot of talent.
Yeah, you start having to like humble yourself and Rennie, there's Instagram Rennie and there's like if you hang out and know Rennie.
Sure.
And Rennie's he's a marketer. You know what I mean? And that's what I love about him. Rennie's a good dude, and his intentions, I knew that's why I wanted him to be a part of it, because I knew that asking him to build that bike or build a FXR, that he was going to do exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. Try to do something outside the box. You know what I mean? Try to do something different. And, but what you do is like, there's so many aspects to building a bike. It could be your skill set. It could be your crew, the people that you have built, the relationships you built in your career to execute the problem, execute the build, right? And a lot of people could be the baddest welder or the baddest painter, but they suck as humans and they never made friends with anybody else, or they never did builds to the point where they could have someone that can machine parts, or they could have somebody that can make a seat. Yeah. And then when it comes down to it, it's like, there's also people out there that will never show the world that they've been helped, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that seat, yeah, I made that. My shop made that. Well, who's your shop? Oh, we're so-and-so. Like, so you're a seat guy, a motor builder, a powder coater, a painter, a welder, a fabricator. You do all that?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I got a guy there. I'm like, who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah.
Because that's not your shop. Who is that guy? Is his name Todd? Who the fuck is Todd? I want to know who Todd is.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that will never fucking peel back that layer because they're trying to sell you everything, right? Yep. And man, building a bike, especially in FXR, they're kind of known for like, they're not inherently like unreliable bikes. They're really not. But it just fixer rhymes with FXR.
Yeah. I mean,
it just, there's like certain things it's fun to say the same way. It's like, hey, how tall are your socks? How tall is your willy? You know what I mean? For a Dyna. Or, whatever the, said subject, how much turquoise and how much hardtail is that?
Yeah.
I can't wait to say how tall is my willy.
2 inches. 2 inches.
2 inches.
But I think that the
That's
point
what she said.
yeah, I think the point I'm trying to make is simply that like there's a lot more underlying purpose behind the FXR Tour than simply just building a bike.
Right.
You know, because what we've got to experience as in our group is what I was wanting to portray into building bikes.
It's, it's camaraderie, it's networking. If you ever have a project in the future, like reach out to these folks. They're there for you, right? They're willing to help you out in whatever endeavor, parts, builds, just like questions. They're all there. They're there for you, right? You're building a lifelong friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could just
And
put it
that's,
out plain and simple.
and that's honestly just started for us, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's, you know, what are we into it? 4 weeks or something now?
Yeah.
So, and that's
trust
been
me,
awesome ever
there's
since.
maybe for you, I can only speak for myself and like maybe the guys that I was with, you know, on a closer level, like during the build process. But what happens is there's going to be like this thing, right? For the next, like, let's just say from now till Sturgis, right? You're going to see little tidbits from everything. No one's really going to peel back the onion that far.
Yeah.
And then after Sturgis, you start to see maybe more in the group chat because that's when you start having to reach out to each other to get help.
Yeah.
And you start seeing certain aspects and you start seeing a level of a bike being built that maybe you thought, you know, I'm not going to go that far on this one. And you should go that far
Yeah.
because somebody else is going that far. And if you're not going that far, you're going to hate yourself for not putting in everything. You know what I mean? And I think that's what happened on ours is that after Sturgis, you started seeing more shit come together and it made everybody go, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know, like not that they weren't, it's kind of like this. Like one of the biggest things we asked for was everybody to take it seriously because at first you don't know how serious you're taking it until you see how serious somebody else is taking it.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you get balls deep in it. You know, you're like, well, Sturgis is more important right now. And then you go to Sturgis and you get back from that and you're like, oh shit, I got 2 months and then I haven't ordered wheels. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. You know, like paints. I don't know where it's at. Apparently you guys should be easy.
We've been very proactive.
Oh my God. Yeah. We've been very proactive.
Very proactive.
As Jeremy would say, we're definitely painting a black and a white FXR.
And he's going to paint yin yang symbols on it.
If they park next to each other, they kind of converge together.
It's going to go like this. And then if you park at the right angle, it's going to be like.
You got to get a drone shot of it coming together.
We've been very proactive
That's good.
on the. So we've got like teaser, custom wheels. They're already done. So custom wheels are done. Obviously, motor is pretty much in.
Yeah.
Got custom rear pivot blocks, custom front mounts. Those are pretty much done. And then, I mean, after cleaning shit up, it's off to the races.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, it's bolt on.
It is and it isn't. So this is the thing. If I could interject, if the premise of your bike build is to put an M8 in an FXR, then yeah, you're done. But that's been done.
We're not done yet.
So how do you take what I found through inexperience on my build was, and obviously doing a air quotes chopper FXR, like you start to play with parameters that you're not used to from like the performance bikes that we're kind of used to, right? Okay, if the tank sits right here versus down here versus like here, like you start playing with these angles and like you got to sit back, like you were saying, you know, hang out in the garage with a beer and just stare at it for like an ungodly amount of time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And you're just staring at it and you're staring at it and you're talking about something else. Like, you see Seinfeld last week? Like, yeah, Kramer's crazy, right? And you're like, oh, wait, what if,
I'm the king of that shit.
you know?
Those are the words I hate to hear from him after we've been drinking. It's like, you know what would be cool?
You know it would be cool. Yeah. So I would say,
but it always makes it cooler.
Sneak
It does
peek,
always make it cooler.
Sneak peek. Yeah, M8, fine, whatever. It's not done.
Yeah. Well, okay, like this.
Fender tank, yeah,
You
fine. We're all doing that.
Right now, I think everybody's focusing on getting a stance, like the motor in, like the main.
Yeah.
The main ingredients to the fucking soup, right? But then once you get that done, and this is the same thing that I talked about with Joe Kidd. We, at Born Free, Texas, he kind of rode halfway back to Dallas with us, and we sat down at lunch. I was like, it's not that like anybody can't build an FXR. It's like, how do you utilize 10 months?
Right.
Like, it's not that you can get it done in 6, because that does not help you.
No.
How do you utilize 10 months of ideas and as you grow to come into it? And like, there's things when you're trying, like if you're building a bike right now for the Fast Life Camp Out, which is in 2 months, right?
Yeah.
You're going to not do things based on the fact that they can't be done in that time frame.
Right.
But also like when your build is sitting on the frame like that, there's certain aspects you're just not seeing because they don't actually exist yet.
Right.
You don't see the front end on it. Mm-hmm. You don't see the stance of the bike. And I swear to God, when Corey was doing getting my frame dialed in for me, when I brought it back to my shop and I stabbed the motor in real quick by myself and just made it a roller, I felt like the way I felt when my son and my daughter came out. I'm like,
when my son came out, he had red hair, and I was like, "Whose fucking dad is it?" Thank God it changed color. And his eyes got like almond.
Oh man!
Oh, you guys are crazy.
This is how we do.
I can't say it, but
he said he was a round eye.
But the thing is that like you get to this point where like you just now saw something completely different. It's like it's new, it's fresh. It's like now it's like almost as if the build has like seasons, like just if you took a build and you put 4 seasons involved, there's a part that's kind of like overall idea. Then there's like the next level of detail, and then the final detail.
Do you ever have that unsure season? Like when you put the whole parts together time. And you're like, oh shit.
The whole fucking time.
That doesn't look like I thought it was gonna look like.
Well, you have to have the balls.
Yep.
The balls to say no.
Yeah.
Or a prime example was on my FXR. And I said it on the podcast. You might have heard it. And I'm sure if you're an avid listener, thank you. And sorry. A lot of the guys didn't like me running the front fender on the bike.
Yeah, that's what you said.
And and I agree, because the original pictures that I gave to the guys.
Why? Just because like chopper?
Well, there's some people that, like haven't grown past 2005 TPJ.
Long front end.
Well,
front fender.
The problem is that like it does look tough as shit without a front fender. It really does look good. Mm-hmm. But my intention on this bike is to travel on it, and a front fender will help keep rain out of my fucking face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when I took this front fender that was fucking fiberglass white, and I stuck it on the bike with all this blacked out front end, and I literally painted the front fender last. Like I was buffing it the night before we left on the tour. You know what I mean? And then I'm when I put it on as a white, the rest of the bike's kind of almost done. I'm looking at it. It's like it's white. It stands out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
But at that point, I started thinking like the rest of the builders, where they're seeing it kind of like for what it is finish wise. And I'm like, okay, well, if I paint it, it's not going to be that standoutish, obviously. But if I paint the sides of it dark instead of gold, then it'll blend into the tire.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Therefore, it'll have like that traditional, like, narrow glide center part painted, right?
Yep.
And I'm so glad I fucking stuck to my own intuition, even though I had nothing but opposition through the group chat and welcoming opposition, because I asked for their opinion about it, right? But ultimately, I got their opinion. I felt like there was still something there that was untapped, and I found a way to get through it and get to where I'm happy, regardless whether they're happy or not.
Yep.
You know, but that's the point too. Is like if you allow everybody else's opinions to build your bike, then you're not building your own bike.
Exactly.
Right. But you know, it's just crazy the ebb and flows of like what you think this is, if you will, and then like what you end up like experiencing. That's why it's interesting, and I'd love to have this conversation again after you build these bikes.
Yeah.
As to like, what did you think you knew?
Yeah.
And where did you find yourself in it? Because the goal is also a self-exploration of like design. When you're building a performance bagger, and I'm not trying to talk shit about that at all.
Oh,
I'm
no.
not.
I'm with you.
You're kind of like, you're dabbling in areas like it's kind of like a house.
It's like Mario Kart.
You know what you were putting on that shit from the get-go.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? Let's remodel the living room or the kitchen. You're kind of messing an area at a time, right? But you're really not changing. You don't have as much control to change the bigger, like you're not removing walls. You're not changing the entire feel of the house.
I mean, look at all these guys doing M8 fucking FXRs. The amount of fab work that they have to do. Like they're cutting out the whole top of the fucking backbone, right? All that shit's got to go. And then you're down into the rear section there just to fit it up in there. I mean, it's a ton of work.
So obviously, you know, as mine now, super badass builder #1 on the FXR Tour, you start looking at that like, okay, this is what you have to do to fit it. But now what can I do to that to make it different? Like, can I do some metal work here? Can I plate it in a different way? Can I do this? Can I add some speed holes? Can I?
Yeah.
One of the other fucking lessons, I guess, is that you start to realize, all right, this is the thing that sucks about performance baggers, is that if you come into this world in performance baggers and you never had an eye for any other bike, you only look at things with goggles of performance baggers. So when you have someone go, hey man, check out what Billy Lane used to do, you're like, I'm not into that shit. Like, all right.
That's bike building.
Right.
But some of the things that people have done in the past, whether it's a chopper or MotoGP or aircraft or F1 racing, these things can all apply into how you can make this something different.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of my biggest inspirations is Church Choppers. That guy,
Jeff Wright,
yeah, he builds some sick shit, man. And it's like, it's out of this. It's all along the same style we've had since day one of building all these bikes 10 years ago. Like just putting shit that doesn't belong on a bike before it's time.
He's a tastemaker.
Like, yeah.
Tastemaker.
And if you ever want to reach out for me, let me know, because I've gone to this dude's bar, sat down and waited for him to meet me, and then he says he's sick to do a podcast. So I love how people always reach out to me and go, hey, you should have so-and-so on the podcast. I'm like, yeah, well, hey, I've tried. You should ask him. You should tell him he should be on my podcast. You know?
He should be in Milwaukee this weekend, right?
And trust me, I'm going to confront him. Yeah. I'm going to. I'm a big fan of his.
Me too, man.
But, okay, it's y'all's podcast, but let me talk about myself for a minute.
Yeah. No, I'm good.
Kind of on the
I'm good for now.
On the notion of what I'm just talking about, like these things that you start to find yourself needing to add another layer of skills or ideas to like where you're at in the builds.
Yeah.
You start to like, for me, it's like, I want to know, I'm interested in these chopper guys, these guys, these Max Shafts, these, cut rates and, Jeff Wright and all these other people, these tons and tons of them down the line. Right.
Yeah.
And I want to go have podcasts with them because they became inspirations to me. And I want to share that because that enthusiasm I have of them to the audience.
Yeah.
But here's what happens. These guys are in like sometimes echo chambers of their own world. And when you look at my Instagram and my Instagram is in DM in your Instagram, and who is this guy? What's he about? And he goes and looks at mine. It's a bunch of fucking performance baggers, burnouts, and fucking drinking and partying, which they're doing too on different bikes.
100%.
They're like, oh, I don't think you're into what I'm into. I'm like, actually, no, I'm very much into what you're into.
Right.
You know, but you gotta understand, like just because I'm not doing what you do doesn't mean I don't respect who you are. You know what I mean?
What's your draw to the chopper world?
The like kind of what I'm talking about. Like you look at these bikes and you start like, you know, the aesthetic, right? Like, so if you're building a bike to keep it the same kind of flow and aesthetic of the traditional FXR, but you upgrade, you resto mod it for the most part, right?
Sure.
There's something that's really badass about that I love, but man, then it becomes like a Dyna to me, or it becomes a newer Softail, you know, and not to downplay it, but it becomes like, what is like to me, what envelope did I push? Because the push of the M8 has obviously been done. So where's my angle? And the FXR chopper has been done, right? Mm-hmm. So to be fair, like I wasn't really pushing the envelope of doing something that hadn't been done. It was more so what I wanted to do, the same way you want to do an FXR M8. So, but it's through that process and seeing how to get certain things done that you're not quite capable of, that you have to go dabble in this other world that doesn't exist in our world.
I mean, my whole push, and you know, I'm not going to speak for him. My whole push for the M8 is just like, goes back to the very beginning of what we were talking about. It's just like power, right? Those motors make power. They make power easy. I can slap a cam in there. I got a small platform bike. Yeah. Like I'm moving out, right?
Yeah.
The motor's reliable. I can put all the fancy brand new electronics on that shit. Fucking cruise control, everything. All those things. That's what's driving me towards M8. Yeah, I could put a twin cam in there or whatever other motor I want to put in there, but they just aren't proven to be as reliable.
Fair,
right?
yeah.
Aside from the fucking top rocker boxes leaking, like every single other Harley motor.
Yeah.
Like the M8, it's hard to not put that motor in there. And if you can find an efficient way to put that motor in that bike, you know, and we've been working on some mounts for that shit.
Yeah.
Like the rear bolts up, no problem.
Yeah.
But to put the front in there is challenging for everybody, right?
Yeah.
There's many different variations to put that front mount in. And we think we've come up with the solution. So we're going to roll with it. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe the motor falls out on the fucking ground.
No, it's not going to fall out
when we're riding out from fucking St. Louis to goddamn Texas, but I mean, it's not, but you know what I'm saying?
I think that at the end of the day, like we all have our own hill to climb in things. And, you know, like I can only speak on mine, and mine may or may not resonate, but it's kind of like back to like our prior conversation to piss number 2. It's like
I got a piss number 3.
You're on your own on this one. I got a better glider than you. I'm running with a fucking 3.8 gallon tank.
Yeah.
But what you end up dealing with is like you have to like. I'm stoked for you guys and what you're excited about building. I truly am.
Yeah.
And I'm actually excited, but I'm also like, I had these feelings that you know, it's like Rennie was saying, it's like postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Right. I just did this thing and I'm so fucking filled with ideas and like wanting to like push on this feeling that I had because of how profound it was to me and like how much different it was than what I had felt in previous builds. Yeah. And in doing so, you end up like, but I only have that through my eyes of what I did. And like, I think that you guys are finding that at whatever level that is. And then as you do this and as you continue to try to like utilize the time that you have to make it as better and better. And like, as you sit back and look at these little spots and go, we need to do something with that. You know, you know, it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
You know, that shit.
Be really good.
Keep doing that.
Yeah.
Keep doing that until you can't fuck anymore. And you're going to do that again. You know what? It's going to be a week before you leave and you're going to do that again and do it.
That sounds about right. Because every time we fucking prototype some new shit front end, it's like right before Sturgis. It's like, hey,
we got to put these on. We got to do R&D.
These new trees, these new forks, and
Peel that
ride
back,
1,000 miles.
Sturgis is your own deadline. It's not the world's deadline.
It really is.
Like the world's not like, hey man,
you better have.
Here's the deal. You didn't hit the mark.
Yeah,
we did,
and you're now canceled.
Yeah,
it doesn't work that way. It's like, look, you build a bike for Sturgis, you can literally just paint it. And it's going to get the same attention across the board on social media.
Yeah, but we can't.
Well, you could. You could. But anyway, like...
It's got to be solid color slayers.
I would say that, like, if you're going to claim solid color gangs and you're going to see gangs, then you're not allowed to use basic colors.
Hell no.
You got to use
never
like
basic colors.
Mauve.
Say Chamberlain already used mauve on his.
No, he didn't. He used like sand.
Mauve.
It's
we
like sand.
we determined last night that his color was burrito.
It is. It really is, bro.
That's a burnt ass shell.
No, that's that cinnamon butter from freaking Texas Roadhouse.
Oh yeah,
that's a burrito. That's honky.
It's an all-such burrito.
I like it.
That's a burrito that's been on the skillet too long.
Oh man,
never had a burnt tortilla that I didn't like.
It's a sand. What is that? I mean, it looks just like the sand fucking Harley color.
it's got a little more yellow.
is.
It's got a little more yellow to it.
Yeah, it's a little bit more.
And it's clear coated.
Yeah, but you know,
It's dope.
I with what you guys are doing, like, it's exciting because I think this is also kind of a different role now. Like as a guy that was doing it last year, it's like,
Yeah,
I think all of us, we all started very heavy, like enthusiastic, and then like we had to do all these other things.
Yeah.
You know, Sturgis, Daytona, fucking events, blah, blah, blah. And so as you get this energy, you flow into it, and then you have to flow out of it for a while and then flow back into it. And so it's also a challenge because you have to carry on with life and then come back with the same enthusiasm, and it's hard to get it back sometimes.
right, dude. We got to keep up with business.
Yeah.
This weekend starts like the first obligation,
Yeah.
so to speak. Don't get me wrong. Like Mama Try is going to be a lot of fun, but we're going to the House of Harley on Saturday. We're setting up there, doing all that stuff. Like we've got a lot more engagements this year, and we call ourselves trying to cut back on engagements this year. And somehow we roped ourselves into, I mean, we didn't rope ourselves into more, but they're just like longer and more in-depth engagements this year. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
We've 100% dialed back on the things that we're going to do this year.
Yeah.
So last year we were like all the grassroots shows, right? We went to Daytona. We did the Atomac performance show, and then we set up at the hardcore performance show, and then we were set up at Daytona
Hangover.
Speedway with V1 Visionary, the Hangover show. Then it was like, boom, turn and burn, and now you're down in Austin for that. We were all over the place, and this year we just really had to stand back and look at like what can we do, but also be a part of this, the FXR Tour. And so it's like we're gonna do AZ Bike Week, right? That's a big one for us because
Early April, right?
Yeah. Well, it's at the end of March because it's Cave Creek Bike Week. So they start a week before AZ Bike Week. So we got to be out there. Yeah, I know, right? So we'll be set up with Ramjet. We'll be set up with Rigid. We'll be set up with Rockford Fosgate and like an 80-foot spread. All of us out there. And then outside of that, it's like FXR Tour.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to devote a ton of our time to that.
And we still got to make time to ride.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like being a part of this world. It's like if you focus solely on the you gotta think what you consume is what you think, right? Yeah. And if you only go to shows and your only connection to motorcycling is from across this cardboard table,
Right.
then you're only
He said your table's cardboard.
your injected molded plastic table from Costco
Hey, I think we got
or
this
Amazon.
Shit. Hey,
It was
this
from Home Depot
and actually this motherfucker was free because
Okay,
when we
so
went down.
He's taking a lot of pride in something he didn't pay for.
Here, I'm going to tell you the story. About this.
We're going to the story now.
Wait, let me put the camera on you real quick.
We went down to Jacksonville last year to go to the Big Trouble's show at Adamek, and we rolled in and we were like, damn, we need another fucking table. We had one in our trailer. We go into Home Depot and we waited probably 30 minutes. Some guy was supposed to come with his forklift and get this table down, and finally some guy came. And he was like, you've been waiting so long, and he walked the shit out to our trailer. This table was free.
It was awesome.
Which Home Depot was it?
Homo Depot.
Homo Depot in Jacksonville, Florida.
Now, well, you know, I think as the whole tour thing unfolds and you see more of these bikes get built, I think the best piece of advice that I could give as whatever version of that, whatever it matters, is like just keep dreaming the whole fucking time. You know what I mean? Like don't if you settle on something and you're stubborn with that build, you could, I don't know, like you're gonna grow as a person between now and October.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And if you spend the next 8-9 months like absorbing new ideas, looking for new inspirations in other ways, then you'll be able to bring more flavor to what you're trying to do, which becomes inherently yours, right? Like maybe it's a MotoGP or F1 thing that you figured out that you could apply that to here, but start consuming things from other worlds to find how to make this good.
Yeah.
There is good knowledge in like the OG shit of what like Indian Larry had said about like a motorcycle is all these elements of life. It's, you know, it's metal, it's leather, it's chemicals, it's all these things, and embracing those kind of like inherent nature things that are said to be true in this world.
Yeah.
You know, the FXR I feel like is hands down the best platform, and obviously you have brand new motors that fit in these frames with more so work than before, but not not impossible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not impossible.
I mean, you're literally riding. Look, you guys cannot deny, especially when you start sitting here and looking at it. I know you already have. It's a fucking sexy frame,
Bro.
It
It's
is.
the best. So it is the best. Like to look at, just where the seat pan drops back and it goes into the fender struts. That's my favorite part. The whole triangle. And that's my favorite part of the frame, and it just looks short, compact, nimble,
but then you catch at the right angle, it looks fucking bulldog.
beefy.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
like, hey, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's what we're gonna be going for on these things.
It's-
Is muscular.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But did they make those
It's gonna
frames?
be hot rod.
did they?
But
Yeah.
did they make those frames to answer the Yamahas and the Suzukis of the times?
Maybe.
I
but
mean, maybe.
but
it's-
nobody's buying those Suzukis and Yamahas at the
True.
time.
Oh, they
And go on.
absolutely are.
Oh.
XS 650s and GT 550s?
Oh, well, those, yeah. But they're cutting them up and turning them into cafe racers.
They are.
Yeah. We had some of them back in the day.
Hardtails.
I like those. I definitely dig those. I like that cafe style. I'm interested in making.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. That's
You know?
that's where
At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, making.
Yeah.
Right? Make that shit your own. Don't get on, don't submit your entries or don't get on the FX Tour because you think it's like a popularity contest.
Yeah.
Do it because you want to make some shit your own.
Yeah.
Right? And like I said in the beginning, this shit right here was going to happen either way.
Yeah.
Whether we got picked or we didn't get picked, we were going to be right there with everybody. Just
I kind of want to, that CBO I got, I kind of want to like make it come up missing.
Yeah.
to buy an FXR.
Dude, that
Build
fucking
one.
CVO, black chrome, gray motor, fucking 117.
Like, oh, all they left was the motor.
Yeah, they stole it.
They stole everything else.
That's
but
a nice motor.
Patreon.
That's a nice motor. What's that VIN number say on it? It says Fast Life.
Yeah.
But no, it's
FVCK.
the FXRs are a gateway drug. Let me tell you that much.
Yeah.
Gateway drug to like more. Put like this, in the early days of this podcast, like I used to talk so much about how I didn't understand how people that were like heavy builders, like welding, fabricating, just locked in the shop, how they couldn't, like, they just weren't into riding. And so I understand the building aspect as to why they get fulfillment out of that. I still need the riding aspect to kind of like inspire the building aspect, you know, personally, but I see that. And when you start doing this and you start wanting to do things differently, I think that as you build this bike, when you go back to look at the bagger, you're going to look at it with different eyes, and you're going to start to apply new skills you earned through this that are going to make those bikes better. And so I think it's important that, like, I said this a long time ago on a podcast with Ryan Cruzy. These bikes are a rite of passage for builders. Yeah. If you can't make an FXR cool, you don't need to make anything cool. No. Yeah. Because these bikes are already fucking cool. Right. All you got to do is fucking paint it.
Right. Seriously.
Paint it. Paint it white.
Seriously. Paint it white.
Paint it white. Or paint it black.
Denim black.
Denim black.